6:01, we'll call the meeting to order. If everyone can please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance in a moment of silence. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, Ms. Lawrence.
Present.
Mr. Liscavige.
Here.
Mr. Lombardo.
Here.
Ms. McDermott. Here. Mr. McGinley.
Present.
Mr. Perry.
Here.
Mr. Schnee.
Present.
Mr. Thornton.
Here.
Mr. Urban.
Here.
Mr. Wilovich.
Here.
Ms. Radel.
Here.
All present.
We have a proclamation for Casual Day. Whereas colon and rectal cancers are one of the most frequently diagnosed cancers in northeastern Pennsylvania, and whereas incidence and mortality rates in some areas are as much as 11% higher than the U.S. average, and whereas about 75% of new cases of colon and rectal cancer occur in patients of average risk, and whereas approximately 515 new cases are diagnosed and about 200 patients die from colon cancer each year in the counties of Lackawanna, Luzerne, Monroe, Pike, Susquehanna, Wayne, and Wyoming combined. And whereas the Northeast Regional Cancer Institute has been easing the burden of cancer in northeastern Pennsylvania for over 30 years through community and patient services, hospital and practice support services, and cancer surveillance programs specifically designed to meet the unique needs of our region. And whereas on Thursday, March 31st, 2022, the Northeast Regional Cancer Institute will sponsor the 19th annual Casual Colon Cancer Awareness Saves Unlimited Adult Lives Day to increase colon cancer awareness throughout northeastern Pennsylvania. And whereas Casual Day was established by the family of Ellen Phillips, who fought a courageous battle against colon cancer and died in the summer of 2002. Now, therefore, we, the Luzerne County Council, do hereby urge residents of Luzerne County and all Northeast Pennsylvania to be screened for early detection of colon cancer, participate and support the Northeast Regional Cancer Institute in its colon cancer awareness efforts, and designate the month of March as Colon Cancer Awareness Month and March 31st, 2022 as Casual Day in Luzerne County. Ms. Barbara Sarah, are you here to accept the proclamation? All right, we'll keep that here for her. We have a proclamation from Ms. Sarah. All right, do I have any deletions to the voting session agenda?
Madam Chair, if I could, regarding item 7 on the agenda tonight, appointing a county manager. Just even today, I received a lot of new information about the candidates that I wasn't aware of. It came primarily from past county council members that are not serving currently. And there's just a lot more that I would like to investigate with the 3 candidates that I'm not comfortable with now. I called several council members here on the phone today, and I heard similar sentiment. It wasn't necessarily they were for or against a certain candidate. There were things popping up throughout the day that nobody, or the ones I spoke to, was not aware of. And so I'm just personally not comfortable with making a decision tonight. I'd like to make a motion that for the time being, we delete item 7 off the agenda.
Okay, there's a motion to delete 7. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call on deleting item number 7.
Mr. Venus.
Yes.
Mr. Liscavige.
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo.
Yes.
Ms. McDermott.
Yes.
Mr. McGinley.
Yes.
Mr. Perry.
No.
Mr. Schnee.
No.
Mr. Thornton.
Yes.
Mr. Urban.
No.
Mr. Wilovich.
Yes.
Ms. Radel.
Yes.
I'm used to no.
Yes, 3 no.
Item number 7 is deleted from the agenda. Do I have?
Madam Chair.
Yes.
We also have to delete item number 8 from the agenda now as manager search committee. We're still in the process at this point.
I don't believe we have to delete that, but if you're more comfortable deleting it, we can delete that.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second to delete number 8. Roll call.
Miscavige,
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo.
Yes.
Ms. McDermott. Yes. Mr. McGinley,
Yes.
Mr. Perry,
Yes.
Mr. Schnee,
Yes.
Mr. Thornton,
Yes.
Mr. Urban.
Yes.
Mr. Wilovich.
Yes.
Mr. Venus.
Yes.
Ms. Radel,
Yes.
unanimous.
Okay, agenda numbers 7 and 8 are deleted from the agenda. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Abstentions opposed? The agenda is adopted. We have public comment on voting session agenda items. Jessica Morgan.
I'm Jessica Morgan. I'm from Dallas Borough. And I just wanted to say that I was very impressed with the two gentlemen that came to speak for being the manager. And I'd also like to say that it seems very strange to me
Ms.
tonight.
Morgan, agenda items only, and since 7 and 8 were deleted from the agenda, there will be no public comment at this time on the county
Oh,
manager.
really? Really? Okay. I don't think that
There
she
will be-
should be here.
There will be
It's
public,
intimidation on your part.
Ms. Morgan, you have to address council.
Okay, I'll say it to council. I think you're in a bad state when you let a person
We're
who's
not,
gonna be.
you can speak about the county manager search at the end of the
Oh,
agenda.
okay, I'll do so. Thank you.
Mary Ann Velez,
Agenda items been deleted. I wish to speak at the end.
okay. Mr. Newman,
Good evening, John Newman from Nanticoke. Agenda item number 3. And I was going to include some comments about number 7, but I guess that is now off the table. Growth. I want to talk about growth. I want to talk about growth in taxable income. And that's what we have going on in Luzerne County right now. And I'm hoping that this is an item which you will vote unanimously on, accepting this LRTA. There are many opportunities in Luzerne County for this continued growth. The Nocera project will be coming down. There's one on Middle Road right now that is, the building is going up. And you can imagine how quickly it's going up. I live down there. I see it every day. And my point with the new revenue, whether it's council, whether it's a county manager, hold the line on taxes. There should be no new taxes unless extenuating circumstances preclude it, but hold the line. Council manager, that's what your constituency is telling you. Get somebody who is going to hold the line on taxes, and it can be done with the amount of growth that is here in Luzerne County, the availability of land, low-cost energy coming from the natural gas fields. Location, location, location. I can't say it any plainer. Thank you very much.
thank you, Mr. Newman. Mr. Griffiths, can you please mute the public on the Zoom?
I want to speak about number 3, 7, 5, and 6. Number 3 is the LRTA. The county's always complaining we don't have enough money to pay salaries. We can't attract good help because we have low end salaries. We need to get more money to pay our employees more. Yet we want to give LRTAs away, and we want to give all these other KOZs and all these other items away at a discounted price to people that can actually pay their taxes. I think it's a concern for council. You can't have it both ways. You can't give the money away to the people who want LRTAs and then complain that you don't have the money to pay good salaries or refurbish the courts or do the things that you need to do. So consider that when you're looking at item number 3. I know LRTAs are a fashionable thing to attract business. I know it's fashionable when we have blighted areas to have a company come in and take care of those blighted areas. but you can't have it all the way around. We had a King's pilot last agenda. You can't give the store away and then complain you don't have any money. It doesn't work both ways. So consider that when you're looking at item number 3. Item number 5 is the amendment to the bylaws, adding the infrastructure committee, and as well as I'll join number 6 with it. The bylaws say that you could create your own committees, and that clearly does say that in section 10C, but I don't see any description as to what the infrastructure committee will do. And I know it might be in your handout, but the public doesn't have that. So I don't know what those 2 committees are going to do that the council is going to vote to create. But if you look at your bylaws in 10C, it states what the standing committees are. But most importantly is in 10D, where it says committee meetings. It says no later than the 3rd regular council meeting each year, or by the 3rd regular council meeting following amendments to the rules and regulations of the county council, the committee chairs shall set the regular days, meeting times, and locations of the standing committee meetings. We're already in meeting number 6. You don't have a variety of those standing committees. I think Mr. Wolowitz is the only one that had actually a strategic initiatives committee meeting. We have a variety of committees that have not met, and they don't have a calendar event out there that they're going to meet. I think it's really important if the council is going to have these standing committees that they actually meet to do their work. The bylaws say they have to meet at least once every quarter. We're already into April, which is a quarter, and we have no meetings. We had no administrative code review. We had no audit committee meetings. We've had no committee meetings, very little. So consider that, council, as you draft another bylaws change to create 2 more committees. Are they actually going to meet and do anything? Are they just going to be places where people just sit on committees? Thank you.
Mr. Griffith. Mr. Fitzgerald.
Thanks, guys. I'm gonna just follow up with Mr. Griffin as far as the spending of the money in the budget. I think that's the most important thing. We got elected that way, at least kind of you did. But there's a lot of people here, like the Sheriff's Department, the Department of Corrections. I think they're underfunded. I think that we need a lot more people. I think they do a lot of overtime. I think they're overworked, underpaid, and I think we need to give them the tools and resources. I think we need to look where we can take them from, or maybe not get tax advantages, especially to colleges and stuff like that. Like, really, who cares about getting a tax, 25,000 or whatever it was for a college? Give us the money, give it to the guys that work on the ground. I appreciate you guys doing your due diligence. I know it kind of sucks that we're probably going to see you next week or 2 weeks, but at least you guys are fighting. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Fitzgerald. Mr. Brennan.
I'd like to have mine moved to non-agenda, please.
Mr. Rabo. He might be outside. Oh. No, outside.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jim Reno from UGI Energy Services.
No,
And it provide-
no, please hold on. We're waiting for Mr. Mark Rabo.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Mark Rabo, First Street, Hazleton. Regards to item number 4 on the agenda for the process of the sale of county-owned properties. I noticed in the reading the packet, and I brought this up at a previous meeting, I believe it was a few months ago, where I said to Solicitor DeLuca about the bidding registration before tax sale properties and for repository properties that was passed into law before the 4th of July weekend in 2021. If it is an LLC or any sort of corporate entity, must register prior to bidding on properties in tax sale auctions and for repository properties. I asked if there was going to be a process implemented, as all the counties are required to do so under the new statute. And I was told that it would be. And I did not see in the packet for this new process for the purchase of county-owned properties that there would be a registration process for LLCs or partnerships. So I was curious to know if that was included in the development of this process, and if there would be a form attached for that, for the bidders. I couldn't hear outside because the acoustics are terrible, but number 7, is that number 7 and 8 that was removed?
Yes.
Okay, all right, so that was all I had on the agenda. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you, Mr. Rabo. Mr. McCabe?
Yeah, Joe McCabe from Exeter. I read in the paper during the week, it's not an agenda as far as I can see that the courthouse rooms are deplorable. The curtains are falling down. Wait, let me carry on.
If you're not on, if it's not agenda.
It's not a non-agenda. So like I said, where was the engineering department the last 10 years or so that they didn't look into this matter? Now they're bringing up to spend money. Okay, that's one item.
Items are at the end
You
of the
can talk
meeting.
at the end of the meeting.
Okay, how about Dave Pedri was here for 7 years as manager. He made,
Non-agenda, non-agenda item as well.
At the end of the
If
meeting,
it's on
you'll
the
have an
agenda, you could.
why
skip
did you
that.
take the question on number 7, the Water Street Bridge? I live in the West Pittston area
That's
as
not-
well as some of these guys.
That's on the work session.
Yeah, but you took it off the agenda,
No, we
number 8.
didn't. We didn't take anything on the bridge off the agenda. It's on the work session. This is the voting session.
Okay, I appreciate it then, because it's matters that went on for 8 months and nothing's been
Okay,
done.
you could speak on it at the end of the meeting. Mr. Bussinger? Am I saying that correctly? Oh, that's a non-agenda item as well. Okay.
Should be on our agenda.
Okay, any other members of the public have comments on agenda items only?
I thought Andy Garrison's not on the file.
Yeah, it says work session.
That's not where we're at.
This is the voting
Okay,
session.
then I'm sorry.
Okay, sure.
Then I'd like to add both. And it goes to some of the procedural issues that I'm not too familiar with how your agendas are set or not set or amended. I just learned how we get one off the agenda. How do we get one on an agenda? Who do I approach? Like, I was here 3 meetings ago and we tabled a vote on small business funding.
You can
aid.
speak on this at the end of the meeting during non-agenda item comment. This comment is only on agenda items, and then at the end.
But
of
it is
the meeting-
about the agenda. I was just trying to figure out,
Right, it's
how-
our procedure, and we could address that at the end of the meeting.
but I'd like to get information on how I can, who is responsible for setting an agenda? Like, it was tabled 3 meetings ago and it's not on an agenda again. So what was just knocked off an agenda, how will that get re-put on the agenda? I guess is what I'm trying to figure out, because I'm looking for the small business funds that were allocated to be distributed through the community. That was tabled 3 meetings ago to be further
We
research.
can speak on that during non-agenda items. Thank you, Mr. Gregaris.
There's 8 items on the agenda right here. You could comment on each of these 8, but if you have general agenda questions like you have, we'd love to hear them, but that's during the general public comment at the end of the meeting. So just stick around.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
yeah, we want to hear them. Just, you have to get the meeting going. That's why we have agenda item speeches now.
Thank you, Mr. Thornton. Miss Emily Foreman? Oh. What's your name?
My name's Julius Zucor. I'm more worried about.
I'm sorry, you're gonna have to speak up. What's your name?
Julius Zucor.
And where are you from?
I am from Avoca, Pennsylvania.
Thank you.
I'm more worried about all this drugs going on in the street.
Agenda items only right now. We can speak on non-agenda items at the end of the meeting.
It is on the Luzerne County is the #1. I'm telling you. I even say it on camera. I'm in recovery. All right.
Thank you. And we'd
So,
love to hear your
it's
story
like-
at the end during public comment. Yep, this is just on agenda items. And you get your chance to speak at the end of the.
Oh, believe me, I will.
Okay, you can.
And what about the potholes?
We can talk about the roads at the end of the meeting too.
My
Yeah, right now, we're talking about agenda items.
Need to be fixed. They're otherwise I can bring bills to the
Thank you.
council. You can pay for it.
Okay, Miss Emily Foreman? Yeah. Is it on an agenda item? This is agenda items only right now.
Fortunately, I didn't get to see the agenda items because I was running to pick up other people to get here. But as far as like the taxes, I've noticed they've been going up.
This is not an agenda item either. I'm
All right.
sorry, you could speak at the end. This is only the voting. We're voting on 6 agenda items right now. That's what we're taking public comment on. At the end of the meeting, you can speak about taxes.
Excuse me, I was out in the rotunda and I thought I heard you call my name, wasn't you?
Yeah, I
That's a
did.
non-agenda item.
None.
I want to make sure I'm not skipping.
Thank you. We won't skip you. I put you in the pile at the end of the meeting.
All right.
You'll be good. Thank you. Is there a Kim? Is this an agenda item? Kim? No. Okay. Any other members of the public on the 6 items on the voting session agenda wish to speak?
Might want to unmute the Zoom call too, to ask them, just in case there's anybody on.
Does the public have the ability to unmute now, Mr. James? They do. Okay, anybody on the Zoom call that wishes to speak on an agenda item, a voting agenda item only?
My name is Jim Reno. I am the Regional Director of Sales and Operations for UGI Energy Services. I'm specifically talking about agenda item number 1A and B. I was asked to be on this conference call to discuss this item and answer any questions that council might have on the situation with utility costs going up.
Okay, thank you, Mr. I'm sorry, what was your last name?
Reno, R-E-I-N-O.
Okay, we'll finish up public comment, and when we're on agenda item number 1, you can speak on that contract.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else for public comment? Okay, hearing none. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes of the March 8th, 2022 voting session? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Abstentions? All right, the minutes are passed. Agenda item number 1, motions regarding resolution providing prior approval for the execution of utility supply contracts. First, we'll need a motion to remove that from the table.
I'll make a motion to remove that.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to remove from table. Can I have a roll call on that?
Ms. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. McGinley?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Schnee?
Yes.
Mr. Thornton?
Yes.
Mr. Urban?
Yeah.
Mr. Wilovich?
Yes.
Mr. Liscavige?
Yes.
Mr. Venus?
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Ms. Radel?
Yes.
10 yes, 1 no.
Motion's removed from the table. Do we have a motion to adopt this resolution?
Motion. Tim McGinley. Motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Can we have a roll call? Does anybody have
On
a
the
question?
question, is this the relating to negotiating the gas rate?
Yes.
with the county?
Yes. Yeah, and Mr. Reno, if you're on, if we have any questions,
But my only question is this motion authorizing someone on behalf of the county to negotiate the rate? The exact rate at this time? Because if it is, I have concerns only because right now we're living in unprecedented times where gas and oil rates and energy rates are at an all-time high, if not almost an all-time high. And to lock in a rate for 4 years, I think is not prudent.
Not quite.
So rates will most likely decline and drop in the next year or two. As a matter of fact, I received this UGI as part of our packet, a table of future contracts. And if you notice, everybody has this sheet in your packet with the UGI rates. If you look 1 year from now, the projected for the future gas rates are a full $1.30 or $1.40 less, down from $4.95 or $5.03 down to $3.66, $3.59. And I don't know, maybe I'm misreading that.
This has the rate at $3.95.
Right now, $3.95. Would it be? See, I'm just wondering, would the rate be lower if we waited a little bit?
Well, let me explain something to answer your question.
Okay.
Normally, we would have done this type of thing back in August, but for whatever reason, it was never completed by the county. Even though we sent back quotes back to that time, just so you know
I'm
that.
sorry, what was
So
that? Wait, I'm sorry, what did you say it was? What? Never?
we
What happened?
we have been looking at this since back in August of 21 with the previous administration, and for whatever reason, the decision was never made to do anything. So that's why you understand we're in the position we're in, and the Russian situation caused Russian-Ukrainian situation caused prices to go up. But to your comments, I want you to understand something. That what you see on that newsletter, and the reason we gave you that was when you see those prices where they're at, that's just where they're at as of today, okay? And that's for each month during the contract period. Those can go up and down throughout the period. What we were proposing to do, because we understand that the prices right now are high, but there are options to enter into to do this in a different manner than we normally would. Normally, if prices had been low, we would normally lock that fixed price for a period of time. Now, our recommendation is not to do that. There is two components to the overall pricing. There is the transportation cost, which is only about 10 to 15% of the overall cost. But what that does is by getting that in place in the volumes per month over whatever period you pick, whether it be 12, 24, 36, 48 months, whatever it might be, that allows us to lock in the pipeline space. And then as we monitor the market, we can lock in individual months as they may come down or go up. Now, for instance, if we were to do a 36-month contract, as you noted, the outer months are much lower in the $3.50 to $4 range versus the $4.80 to $5.30 range. We can, once the basis is in place and the contract for that is in place, we can work with your staff to lock in those outer months where the price is low and wait to see where the forward months go. Now, the reason I say that is a good option is because there's another component to this for the future that isn't being considered. There is a huge push being put on for electric cars over the next few years. Because the majority of electricity is now produced with natural gas, that will mean that there'll be an increase of natural gas usage for electric generation, which could drive the prices up even higher than what we're seeing now. So it's prudent to look from a financial standpoint for the county, as we've always done in the past. I've worked with various engineers in the past. By the way, I've been doing this for over 30 years with the county. And it's only been in recent times that we've had challenges getting things done. But you can lock in those outer months at that lower price and wait to see where the forward months, which are the most active and the highest ones, go when we just go on a month-to-month basis, which is no different than you're doing right now. So that way you get the option of locking in the high end so you don't end up with high prices in the outer months, and you work on getting the forward months to a lower cost. And that we would do, I would do on a regular basis with your staff and monitor that and try to get the best prices for the county.
Mr. Reno, just a quick question. So all that you explained, is that written in this agreement or resolution that we're passing?
Well, that's your decision. If your resolution is to have your whoever's in charge, whoever the staff person is in charge to negotiate that contract so that we would get in place the basis part of the deal and work to lock the month to month as the market comes down. That's all the resolution would be.
If we're voting to pass $3.95 per MMBTU right now, are we locked into that for a period of time?
No, that's only for 1 month.
Oh.
You have, because the contract was never extended back when the opportunity was there, as we have done for the last 30 years. Unfortunately, the county's in a position now where failure to do that has let the market get away from them, and we can't physically lock the gas at those prices because, as you can see, the forward prices are in the $4 to $5 range just for the gas without the transportation. So in this case, the better option is to get the transportation in place for whatever period we choose, and then lock in the months one at a time as they come down over a period of time, and lock in the outer months that are already down to keep those prices from going up.
Yeah, and I hear what you're saying about the increased demand of natural gas with the increase of the push with electric cars. But honestly, I don't necessarily agree with that with all due respect, because
well, you can disagree all you want, but that's fact. The other challenge that we have going, so you understand, I'm trying to give you all the facts. I'm trying to give you the facts. You let me explain one more thing.
Yeah.
Also, you mentioned earlier on this meeting, the large industrial growth that we're seeing in the
Please
county.
be respectful. We have to hear this presentation.
That is also going to put additional demand on natural gas going into the future. And that will not only be in this area, but across all areas of the East Coast where expansion is beginning because of natural gas. So there are a lot, to make it simple, there are a lot more pros that prices will go up and stay up than there are that they'll come down significantly. Unfortunately, that's a challenge that we're in.
I would just like to address council if I could then, rather than address Mr. Reno. One thing I know is the large spike in natural gas prices did not occur because of this war going on between Russia and Ukraine and Poland. The vast majority, most of that increase was last year, long before the war. And that was due to the current White House administration shutting down the fracking of natural gas in this country and stopping the drilling of the oil. That shot prices last year through the roof. The biggest increase of natural gas that we're currently feeling was due to that, not this Ukraine war. I strongly feel like that's why I'm happy Mr. Reno said, we're not locking in for 3 years, because I know in 2.5 years or so, when that administration changes in the White House and gas fracking is opened up again, gas prices will come down at that time. But I'm just happy to hear, I appreciate your comments, Mr. Reno.
Could I just say something really quickly, and then I'll let you. I don't think this resolution has in here that we can negotiate on a month-to-month basis, so I can't find that in here. I don't know if Mr. Rosencrantz did.
It's the term up to 48 months, so
Okay.
it is allowable.
Not to exceed. Okay. 48 or 36?
Up to 48, yeah, and that wasn't corrected, but I understand that it's a typo.
Okay, so this is 48. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Willoughby. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that was my question. It says 36 and in parentheses 40. I imagine we'd have to amend that. We pass it, we'll have to come back and fix it 2 weeks.
Yeah. You want to make the motion to amend it?
I'll make that motion.
Second, Venus.
Okay, just a roll call on
What's
amendment.
the correct number? 48?
I believe
48.
48.
48. Okay, so we have a motion to amend that last section 3 to 48 calendar months. I'm just trying to see if there's a way we can word it so that we know it could be month to month. All right, we'll do it on that first. Roll call on that.
Mr. McGinley,
Yes.
Mr. Perry,
Yes.
Mr. Schnee,
Yes.
Mr. Thornton,
No.
Mr. Urban.
No.
Mr. Willoughby,
No.
Mr. Venus,
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch,
No.
This is just on the amendment.
Yeah.
Mr. Lombardo,
Yes.
Ms. McDermott,
Yes.
Ms. Radel,
Yes.
7 yes, 4 no.
Okay, so now the typo is corrected. Mr. Urban.
So looking at this contract, first of all, the administration or somebody dropped the ball last year on this. And this is what I have a problem with. You know, we probably could have got a better rate last year. Why wasn't that brought to us in an earlier time? Period. Now, the other thing is negotiating something like this in a public forum, I think is wrong. 48 months is a very long time. I think you probably need a council member or two to be in on something like this when it's this deep. We shouldn't have to hash it out here.
Right.
You know, I think this needs to go back to the Strategic Initiatives Committee or one of the county committees or county council committees to hash the details out, to bring back a good product back to us. This is one of those items where I think management dropped the ball once again. You can't even bring a clean copy, which is something, you know, we shouldn't even have to amend. And I mentioned it at the last meeting, it should have been corrected between then and now, you know, wasting more time. So that's the type of stuff that I get perturbed about, is little attention to detail. And Mr. Reno, I'm sorry that you have to go through this. You probably should have pressed harder, probably should have got to our clerk to get this to us sooner. I mean, I was on council last year, as was Mr. Griffin and most of us here. It should have been addressed then. And, you know, it's thrown on our lap now. I'd make a motion to table this and send it back to committee.
There's a motion to table.
Second.
Motion and second to table, roll call on tabling.
Mr. Perry,
Oh.
Mr. Schnee,
No.
Mr. Thornton,
Yes.
Mr. Urban,
Yes.
Mr. Wilovich.
Yes.
Mr. Venus.
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch,
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo,
No.
Ms. McDermott.
No.
Mr. McGinley,
No.
Ms. Radel.
No.
No,
6-5.
All right, it's not tabled. We have a motion and a second for this. We have a roll call on just adopting this resolution.
Are we gonna correct or try to add that month to month though, or
It's already in there.
is it in
Question is there anything in the language currently that refers to month? It's open, we don't have to reopen the
No,
contract.
I mean, it says shall be for a term not to exceed, but that's giving Mr. Rosencrantz, that language to me, and I don't know if other council members agree, seems like that is giving you the authority if you choose to enter into the 48-month contract. So is there a way that we could change this to a month-to-month basis with?
I have no issue with that. And our main concern is to save the county money on our natural gas rates. That's the bottom line here. We locked in till the end of April at $4 per MMBTU. We're okay until the end of April. The problem is that the rates are variable since last May. And I agree with you 100%, Mr. Urban. Yes, the previous management did drop the ball on it, but he's no longer here. And I'm trying to pick this up and save the county money. We are paying triple what we were last year. We could have locked it in at $3. It wasn't. The bottom line is we're here. I'm trying to save the county money and lock in a rate. That's the bottom line.
Mr.
I'm not
Reno-
looking to scam anybody or do anything
But
outside
Mr.
of a
Reno said that
contract
we
to
could
cost
do
the
it.
county any money.
Mr. Reno did say that he was going to speak with members of the county to be able to lower the rate. Am I correct, Mr. Reno, or how did you say that? You would.
Yeah, I
speak
said
with the
that
county
if we
regarding
can
it.
get this agreement in place and get the transportation portion in place, we could then work with the county, whoever you appoint, to work towards locking in the individual commodity on the months as the price becomes favorable.
So how often would that be?
If we put, sorry,
It
if we put.
it would
so
be,
right
we
after-
could do that, we could do 5 months tomorrow, 3 next week. There's, once the transportation portion is placed, you have until the contract, until that month expires, for example. You have until April 28th to lock in May's final price. So we would have plenty of time to work towards locking in the individual monthly price.
And I'll
At
give you my
rates
word,
more,
I've worked
less
with
than what they are now.
You know, whatever term you want to lock it in at, I could work with you. It's just that we need to have the authority to lock in.
So if we add, does this clear this up at the end of section 3, contract maximum length? If we add after, right, where it says 1-year renewals, and could we add and renegotiate quarterly as rates decrease? Is that acceptable? Is that acceptable to add that to the resolution? I don't know if anybody wants to.
Yeah.
Huh?
Is that acceptable?
Right.
Is that okay with you, Jim?
Mr. Reno, did you?
Yeah, I'm not quite hearing all of it. My
Okay.
suggestion would be that the resolution saying that we are entering into a, whatever the term you want to pick, 36, 48 months, whatever, term to purchase the transportation part of the agreement and to work with the county staff to lock in each individual month's commodity price as we see fit. Or as the group sees fit, whatever way you want to do it.
Kendra, I make that motion.
Quarterly would work, monthly, you know, I'm flexible. I mean, I just want to do what's right for everybody, you know.
Yeah, just so you know, it needs to be flexible because the market changes on a daily basis. If you look at the, just so you I want everybody to understand, because this is what really has been missing for the last few years. And I used to do this with the engineers every year. If you look at the graph that shows the dip in the market around December of 2021, you could see, you see where it dropped down. That could happen at any time. When that does, there's only a short period of time to react to get that pricing. As you can see, where the prices jumped back up in January and have been going up ever since. So we need to have the ability, I need to have the ability to work with whoever it is, if it's Mr. Rosencrantz or whoever it might be, to pick those time periods as we have done in the past and get the best prices we can going forward for the county.
Ms. Radel? Ms. Radel,
Yes.
I make that motion the way Mr. Reno spoke.
Okay. Can you repeat that, Mr. Reno?
Sure. So the motion is that, is 48 months the time period that we're talking about here? 'Cause- Okay.
Yeah, right
so-
now we have.
Right, so
Right now
the
we have
motion
the
would be, right, the motion would be that you would purchase the transportation portion of your natural gas contract for the next 48 months. And that UGI Energy Services will work with the designated county representative to lock in the commodity portion of each month going forward at the opportune times that arise within the next 48 months.
Okay. Mr. McGinley, you'd like to keep that motion?
I want to make that as an amendment to the resolution so that we have it all together, please.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to add that language to section 3 of this resolution. Can we have a roll call on just adding that portion to the resolution?
Mr. Schnee,
Yes.
Mr. Thornton.
Yes.
Mr. Urban.
Yes.
Mr. Wilovich.
Yes.
Mr. Venus.
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch.
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo.
Yes.
Ms. McDermott.
Yes.
Mr. McGinley.
Yes.
Mr. Perry.
Yes.
Ms. Radel.
Yes.
Unanimous.
Okay, we still had a first and a second on this. Does that still stand? Everybody
Yes.
okay with it? Now?
Yeah.
Okay.
And if the administration, we can give you even monthly reports, if that's what council desires.
Quarterly.
You want a quarterly?
Quarterly.
Okay, so we'll do that.
The issue that I have is just doing this legislation on the fly like this, you know, this can't happen again in the future.
Thank you, Mr. Urban. Okay, we have a first and a second. Can we have a roll call on this resolution with the amendments?
Mr. Thornton.
Yes.
Mr. Urban.
No.
Mr. Wilovich.
Yes.
Mr. Venus.
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch.
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo.
Yes.
Ms. McDermott.
Yes.
Mr. McGinley. Mr. McGinley,
Sorry, I was muted. Yes.
Mr. Perry,
Yes.
Mr. Schnee,
Yes.
Ms. Radel,
Yes.
10 yes, 1 no.
Okay, motion passes. Number 2. Motion to adopt.
Thank you very much.
resolution approving
Thank you,
Thanks,
Mr.
Jim.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Council.
I'll even take a water break. I'll get.
Okay, motion to adopt resolution approving a budget transfer to provide funds related to services performed for Webster Bank rate reduction on a general obligation note series 2019.
So moved.
Second, Venus.
Roll call.
Mr. Urban,
Yes.
Mr. Willoughby.
Yes.
Mr. Venus,
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch,
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo,
Yes.
Ms. McDermott. Yes. Mr. McGinley,
Yes.
Mr. Perry,
Yes.
Mr. Schnee,
Yes.
Mr. Thornton,
Yeah.
Ms. Radel,
Yes.
unanimous.
Motion passes. Number 3, motion to adopt resolution providing tax exemption for new construction in deteriorated areas under the local economic revitalization tax assistance act.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Willoughby,
Yes.
Mr. Venus.
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch,
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo.
Yes.
Ms. McDermott. Yes. Mr. McGinley,
Yes.
Mr. Perry.
Yes.
Mr. Schnee.
Yes.
Mr. Thornton,
Yes.
Mr. Urban.
Yes.
Ms. Radel,
Yes.
unanimous.
Number 4, motion to approve process for sale of county-owned properties.
I'll make the motion.
Second, Venus.
Roll call.
On the question. Real quick. Page 63, last paragraph, phone numbers again.
What is it?
Phone
Phone numbers transfer.
You corrected one, but not the second.
Oh. Let's see, page 60.
If
Yep.
interested.
All right, does everybody know that needs to be changed? Do we have to make a motion for the amendment then?
Shannon or Vito, Attorney Sansky or Attorney DeLuca, if she's just changing a digit on a phone number, do we need a motion for that?
No.
Okay, thank you. We can just correct that. Okay, we have a motion and a second with that correction. Our roll call.
Mr. Venus,
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch,
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo.
Yes.
Ms. McDermott.
Yes.
Mr. McGinley.
Yes.
Mr. McGinley, thank you.
Yes.
Mr. Perry,
Yes.
Mr. Schnee,
Yes.
Mr. Thornton.
Yes.
Mr. Urban.
Yes.
Mr. Willoughby.
Yes.
Ms. Radel,
Yes.
unanimous.
Madam Chair, thank you, Mr. Chairman, for all the work you did in this.
Well, thank you, committee. Thank you, committee.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Leanne.
Thank
It's
you
a lot
very
of
much.
work.
Well, thank you, the committee, for working too.
Motion passes. So now we have number 5, motion to amend the bylaws, adding the infrastructure committee. That motion would read as a motion to amend council bylaws at Rule 10 to add a standing infrastructure committee. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. LaScavitch,
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo.
Yes.
Ms. McDermott.
Yes.
Mr. McGinley,
Yes.
Mr. Perry,
Yes.
Mr. Schnee,
Yes.
Mr. Thornton,
Yes.
Mr. Urban.
Yes.
Mr. Willoughby.
Yes.
Mr. Venus,
Yes.
Ms. Radel,
Yes.
unanimous.
Motion passes. Number 6, it's a motion to amend bylaws to add the review committee. This is again to amend council bylaws at Rule 10 to add a standing review committee with the understanding that this committee's meetings will not be open to the public and do not need to be publicly advertised, as the purpose of the review committee is to discuss pending litigation, negotiations, and matters that may properly be discussed in executive session.
So moved.
Second. Thornton.
Roll call to add the review committee.
Mr. Lombardo.
Yes.
Ms. McDermott.
Yes.
Mr. McGinley,
Yes.
Mr. Perry,
Yes.
Mr. Schnee.
Yes.
Mr. Thornton,
Yes.
Mr. Urban.
Yes.
Mr. Willoughby.
Yes.
Mr. Venus.
Yes.
Mr. LaScavitch,
Yes.
Ms. Radel,
Yes.
unanimous.
We'll appoint council members to those committees at the next meeting in public. Okay, can you, either Attorney Lefsansky or Attorney DeLuca, do you want to announce our executive session from yesterday?
Yes, council met in executive session from 5 PM until approximately 6 PM yesterday, hybrid, and discussed personnel matters. No decisions were made, no deliberations took place.
Thank you, Attorney DeLuca. We're open for public comment. On non-agenda items, so, people that didn't get to speak earlier. First, we have Mr. Scott Bussinger.
Might be out. He's gonna be out in that.
Good evening, real quickly. I live in the town of Mountaintop, and I drive on a road called Kirby Avenue. And the road is, to put it mildly, an embarrassment. I talked to the county engineer about a week ago. He's complaining about not being able to get any funds to fix this road. And when I mean fix, it's not patch. That's been tried. This thing needs to be completely rebuilt. And I'm here to find out what's holding up the funds to be released to fix this road. I know there are a lot of roads in this area that are in poor shape. This one may be the poster child for that. That's what I'm here to find out.
Great. Say something. I think what everybody might have been counting on, which is forthcoming, and maybe Ms. Crocamo could expand on this, the infrastructure bill or money. If you could just talk about that, especially when anybody would expect to see that at a local level.
The infrastructure money is going to be funneled through the state. So we would have, meaning counties would have no control of when we actually see that money. We anticipate that we will get funding, and when that funding happens, we will, prior to that funding coming available to the counties, we will have for council a list of the roads and their status, including roads that need to be totally refurbished, roads that need to be maintained, and hopefully at that point, council will make a decision on what roads the monies will go to.
Did that bill pass yet?
Yes, it did, but it's just, we don't have the particulars. We're waiting on the federal government, and sometimes it takes a while for the federal government to process the particulars, and all that money will be funneled through the state. So there's two different levels that we have to wait for. The administration is, as is council, we're acutely aware of the conditions of roads, and it is a top priority, not only for the administration, but for council as well. And it's my hope that we work closely with council to make sure that not only do we refurbish the roads, but we have a constant maintenance plan going forward. The roads that we are talking about that condition did not happen overnight.
Oh, agreed.
We need to address it. We need to address it immediately, but we also need to address it in terms of future use. And we will do that. So call your representatives so that we can get the federal guidelines and the state guidelines out to the counties. We're not the only county that is dealing with this. We are a county that has more roads than the average county, but we're all waiting for how those monies will be expended. I hope in the next few weeks that we will be able to take council members who want to take a tour of all the county roads. We will do that. I've been working with the engineering department and the planning and zoning department so that council wants to ride on the roads, we will take them. Months ago, I did go with planning and zoning. We did travel over many of the roadways, and you're absolutely right. It's It's unacceptable.
Well, 2 points. You mentioned a list. Does such a list exist?
Yes.
Of the roads?
We do have a list. We have a list. I believe I forwarded that list to council at some point.
Yeah.
We're going to be updating it. But there is a list. There was an assessment done a few years ago, and there is a list of the worst roads in Luzerne County.
This better be on, I'm telling you.
Madam Chair, can I say one thing? Scott, I live in Mountain Top too. I live in Mountain Top.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with where I live in Greystone?
Greystone, yeah, I live.
I come out of Greystone.
Yeah.
There's one way I can go, left or right, it is on curb.
Yeah.
So I've been
Same
on
here.
council for 5 years.
Mhm.
I know how bad it is. I've
Yeah.
been trying for 5 years, but there is a list. And believe it or not, curb works is number 14. 14.
Okay.
I didn't check the rest of the roads, but I will go around. I'm
Yeah.
gonna see how bad they are.
Yeah.
Because I know how bad curb is, but believe me, we're gonna do everything we possibly can to fix all those roads that are.
Who on this council is responsible, because I'll call the state too. I'm involved with the convention of states as well. And so we'll have two purposes for contacting our representative. Who on this council is responsible for browbeating the state on this issue? Is there anyone assigned?
We all are.
We all are?
And I
Well,
can tell you.
I mean,
I will.
with all due respect, with all
I
due
will
respect.
zealously, and I have, on various meetings I've been on with state and federal representatives, I have advocated about our roads and our bridges. And we have to keep it up. And the more people who raise their voices, the more that we're heard.
Okay, I would say that everyone being responsible means nobody is. I think some person has to take this ball and run with it with the support of everyone. I would suggest that. I've been a lot of years in business, manufacturing, quality management. I can tell you when everyone has responsibility, nobody does. So I would urge you to do that.
Thank you,
Assign
Mr.
one
Bessinger.
person, okay?
Make a quick statement. I did email Mr. Bussinger.
Sorry?
I just want to say I did email the county manager back on October 16th of 2021 about Kirby Avenue.
Yeah.
And I got no response.
Okay. All right. Can't, I mean, I know there are a lot of road
Thank you,
problems.
Mr. Bussinger. I apologize. It was the 3 minutes that we allotted a lot more time. Mr. McCabe?
Okay.
Yeah, I brought up before about the Water Street Bridge, and acting county manager brought up that she was going to act on it. Well, within the last couple of days, the infrastructure, the Casey Highway right above Dunmore, which I traveled for 30 years, is starting any day now. Millions of dollars is put on the Casey Highway to start the reconstruction of the road. So I don't know why 7 months and we didn't hear nothing. Last week, they had to watch, this guy's here from West Pittston, the Water Street Bridge was, or the Fort Jenkins Bridge was shut down again for inspection. Well, I'll tell you what, I live in Exeter. For me to get to Pittston, when I started on the west side of the bridge, 2 cars was allowed to go into Pittston, and there was 25 cars coming out of Pittston. And that's not equal, rights, so I was wondering if the acting manager did contact PennDOT about the Fort Jenkins Bridge.
It's on the agenda.
Yeah, it's on the
It's
agenda,
on the
but,
agenda, and I'll defer to Council Member Thornton, who is.
okay, one more thing before my time expires. Why are you recommending a $45,000 raise for the county manager? It was in the paper today, 45,000. You're going, Dave Petrie got $137,333 when he left. If he was manager today, he'd be getting $140,080.
We okay to range? We okay to range when we hire a manager, the salary will be made public.
Yeah, but are you going to give a $45,000 raise to the new manager?
The salary that we decided on is not public yet.
Well, it was in the paper. Somebody had to
We
make it
decided
public.
on a range, the range was in the paper,
The rate, the 185,000.
The salary we decided on is not public.
Well, it was in the paper. Okay, let me see what else I have. Water Street Bridge goes, Pedri. Oh, one more thing about the rain tax. Aqua, I don't know why somebody in here can't give me a straight answer on it. They don't pay the rain tax. people up in the Dallas area complained last year when they were here that they have to pay for their farmland and all. Could anybody give me a reason why Waconacoit don't have to pay? I ran into a county employee today and he said he doesn't have to pay it, you know?
I can address that.
Okay, go ahead.
Wait, really quickly, Mr. McCabe, is that all? Are you
Yeah,
good?
one last question.
Okay, yeah, we'll let your questions be answered, sure.
Okay, regarding the rain tax, there's 76 municipalities in Luzerne County.
Right.
40, some of them don't pay any fee to the WVSA.
Any reason why?
Yeah, the reason why is WVSA did not pass any rule or law imposing that fee on anybody. People seem to direct.
Well, who put the fee on us?
The state, actually EPA for the federal government passed that law.
They put it on one single area, like if people was here
Not
from
an area.
Harrisburg.
No, let me finish.
Okay.
And then I want to talk to you about the Water Street
Right.
Fireman's Memorial Bridge. This is going back 6 or 7 years. Under the Obama administration, he and the EPA passed the Susquehanna River Basin Law, which encompassed many things. One of them was the individual communities that lived along that river, that drained into that river,
Right.
were responsible to comply with all these new environmental regulations. Many of them required the purchase of heavy equipment, street sweepers, back trucks for catch basins. So to answer your question about Waconacoit, every individual town that you live in Luzerne County made their council made the decision to give that responsibility to comply with those laws over to the WVSA. Many towns did. 30 some out of 76 did.
So you live in West Pittston, you're saying West Pittston gave the county the okay to put the tax on the people?
Not the county. The county didn't do anything. Not the county.
Well,
The
who
W-
okayed the rates?
West Pittston had to comply, as every town, with all of these expensive regulations laid down, unfunded mandate by the EPA. So the answer, I guess, is to complain to the federal, your elected officials, but the county didn't impose any of that.
I said I went down with Matt Cartwright for hours and
Yeah.
he said it's all your local
No,
officials.
well,
doing
the
it.
local towns have. to-
Well, I mean, one's blaming the
Well,
other.
I think if you understand, the local towns were forced to comply with the federal EPA law. They weren't equipped, like West Pittston, to buy millions of dollars of equipment. And Exeter couldn't, Wyoming
One
couldn't.
last question. for you.
Yeah.
Why is Luzerne County the only one isolated in the whole state? You see, oh, you weren't here. Sneed was here.
Yeah.
Perry was here. There was people from Harrisburg here and all about 6, 7 months ago when it started. I mean, they're all crying the blues because Luzerne County is the only one with the tax, you know?
Well, the county doesn't have that tax, not the county.
Well, who put it on us?
The EPA, federal
On
government.
one county out of the whole
Thank
state.
you, Mr. McCabe.
40 some towns in the county don't pay it.
But certain
40 some.
municipalities entered into the agreement with Wyoming Valley Sewer Authority. So the
And
municipality.
there's only one county in the whole state that agreed.
No, the county didn't agree. You're not-
Well, one area.
No, each municipality had their decision whether they were going to join the contract or sign the contract for it. Some of them did, some of them didn't.
So what town do you live in?
Exeter.
Exeter Council, and I know many of them, voted to enjoin that. They did, and they'll tell you, they have the resolution, they could show you, where they agreed to have the WVSA bill all the Exeter residents. Ask your Exeter County officials.
I wasn't
or
there at
Exeter
that
town
time.
officials.
I wasn't there.
And real briefly,
I just like every day.
real briefly, Mr. McCabe, stick around because in the work session, we are going to discuss the extensive talks we have on the status of those bridges. In
Okay, thank you.
Westford.
All right, Mr. Raybo.
First of all, real quick, with regards to the rain tax / stormwater fee, actually, Mr. Thornton, you're wrong. It was a lawsuit, federal lawsuit brought by the Chesapeake Bay Foundation against the EPA and the states surrounding the bay that imposed a mandate to clean up, pay for the cleanup of the waterways, which is the Susquehanna River that empties into the bay.
Right.
I know because you're looking at the guy who spoke to the
And I don't
Chesapeake
disagree with that,
Bay
you're
River
right.
twice.
Right.
I spoke to the Chesapeake Bay Commission last year twice, and I said to them very respectfully and firmly, I said, and Senator Yaw was the chair, who's Williamsport area. He's also the chair of the Senate Environmental Committee. I said to him, Mr. Chairman, why is it that our state is taking the lion's share of paying for the lion's share of the cleanup costs when we have a state that neighbors us to the north that's dumping raw sewage at the root of the river, Susquehanna River, and it's coming down into our waterways and then going out into the bay? They said to me, they said, well, it's incumbent upon Pennsylvania too, because most of the water in the Susquehanna empties into their bay. So technically it's quote unquote Pennsylvania's water. Okay, well, you know, and I spoke to the delegate from Maryland on the commission, and I said, well, if you believe that, then why are you collecting recreation tax and fees off of our water? I think maybe we should get, you know, a portion of that and pay for the cleanup. But we would have to have an attorney general that would want to do that, considering the fact that Maryland, Virginia, and Washington, D.C. are currently in litigation against the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and New York. I kind of know this stuff because I kept track of it since 2013, so I'm kind of well aware of this. So that's with the rain tax, just to get you up to speed. Now, for the last 30 seconds, minute that I have left, with regards to the land bank, Hazleton Land Bank, I agreed with Pittston getting the money for the land bank because they've showed and displayed that they are capable and have a process in place of remediating and removing the blight. However, Hazleton's does not have a process in place. The last year's council, I'm sure some of the council members could tell you, no bylaws were submitted. Knows with the properties in the repository, as I said, there's 30 seconds. With regards to the last year's law that was passed by the State Blight Task Force, Representative Doyle Heffley of Carbon County did say that it has to be registered as well. So, so can you answer my question on that, if you can? You didn't answer on the last on the voting session. So,
Madam Chair, I do want to clarify one thing.
Go ahead.
You were correct with the Chesapeake Water-Based Commission down there, the authority. Those were their wishes, but they don't have the authority or legal power to impose any laws on Pennsylvania. So they went to the federal EPA, and the EPA passed those laws, what the Chesapeake wanted. And so ultimately, our laws come from county, state, federal.
DC Circuit Court of Appeals, two rulings actually imposed that the payment has to be made by this Commonwealth for the cleanup costs. And
Okay.
that's why the stormwater.
Well, the judge is in a judicial role. He or she's not making legislative decisions.
No.
But the ruling on the law, the law originates an EPA law, not a DEP law of Pennsylvania.
Actually, the state passed it. The Senate Environmental Committee passed the law. Senator Yedichak, who was the committee chair at the time, passed it to where
Okay.
stormwater authorities and sanitary authorities can collect the stormwater.
Can't collect the fee to comply with the law that's imposed by the EPA. Right,
Thank you.
exactly.
Thank you. Mr. Brennan.
Any member of the council looking at our badge to help fix our roads, my brother and I would appreciate it. So you guys,
Greg Brandon.
anyone want?
I'll let him. Okay.
Thank you.
Greg Brandon, Wright Township. Good evening, council members. Thank you for allowing me to speak again tonight. Each of you is standing with our county at a critical crossroads. You're supposed to vote this evening. I understand it got delayed, but that vote was going to determine the long-term trajectory of this county's future. Last November, the voters sent a clear message. They want change. While we've worked to get our dangerous roads addressed, a number of observations have been made clear regarding this county manager's administration's leadership. During her tenure, she has lost many key positions in her administration, including the top two members of the Road and Bridge Division. She could not, when asked, remember her proposed budget amount for our roads. Our committee was asking for $5 million. Eddie O'Neill, the former head of the Road and Bridge Division, asked for $300,000, and she reduced his ask to $200,000. But she couldn't recall it when asked. She then told the previous council that they should prioritize roads as it would take $50 million to repair them properly. So how can you reconcile that when $50 million are needed, but you're only asking for $200,000 in the budget? She then told Councilman Lombardo, who then told Caroline Forback of WBRE on camera that the ARP funds could not be used for roads, no exception. When our committee discovered the revenue loss rule and inquired, she told us she had requested rule clarification from the US Treasury, but that her question was number 76,000 something. Her head of budget and finance, Brian Sweats, knew the rule and even reported a loss of $8.9 million for one of the 4 qualifying ARP years. Why would we need to seek an answer from outside the administration when her own finance department had an answer? I asked whether the revenue loss from the other years might qualify for our roads, but despite the inquiry over a week ago and a requested response no later than yesterday, I did not get the answer. Lastly, she told all of us that the email address listed on the Luzerne County website does not always reach her when I inquired about my mom's email back in February. As acting county manager, this repair should have been a priority, as the county manager must be accessible to the residents of this county. I am very familiar with Mr. Johnston's work in Covington, Kentucky. Having lived nearby for several years prior to moving here, I enjoyed the shopping, dining, and festivals that Covington hosted on the levee, competing effectively with the much larger city across the Ohio River, Cincinnati. Mr. Johnston would bring a tremendous skill set to our county. Mr. Robertson also carries a great resume, having worked in military and civilian management and being a U.S. Army officer. He certainly has the strength to fight for the change the people of Luzerne County desire. To use his word, he would be a great coach to change Luzerne County the way it desperately needs to be changed. Thank you.
Mr. Newman?
I'm not sure if this is the place to discuss the financing for the Wyoming Seminary project.
You can, it's not
Okay,
agenda item.
all right. I believe this is under the pilot law, which was passed somewhere in around the year 1948. And it said that any municipal body, including universities, schools, that don't pay taxes, must come to the county to get authorization to borrow money. And Ms. Rebelda, am I on base on this? Okay, I'm on base. All right, thank you.
Day for baseball season.
Pilot meaning payment in lieu of taxes, okay? Now, I've been coming to county meetings for the best part of the last 20 years. And these things come up every time a university or a public entity wants to borrow money to improve themselves. And yeah, it's good. But that word pilot, payment in lieu of taxes, the county never gets anything. Never gets anything. Now, here's Wyoming Seminary. I know they contribute to Kingston Borough. Why don't they contribute to the county? There was a huge one several years ago. Well, Wilkes wanted to expand. And I know the previous county manager tried to get a pilot from them. Nothing for the county. City of Wilkes-Barre, yes. They always contribute to a municipality, but they never contribute to the county. And you folks are the ones that says, yeah, you can go borrow. Maybe, and it's probably the dark side of the issue. Maybe sometime you should say no. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Newman. Mr. Fitzgerald?
Thank you.
I had something to say, but that's gonna table it. I just thank you guys for having this meeting and your time, and I know you put a lot of effort in. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fitzgerald. Mr. Griffith?
I have a quick concern about item number 6 that was on the agenda, motion to amend bylaws for a review committee. Hopefully I did not hear council say that we're now going to legislate that we're going to have secrecy at these council meetings or committee meetings. That this review committee can meet in secret, in executive session, or whatever they want to do. And I think that's what I heard, but I certainly hope I'm mistaken on what I heard, that review committee can meet in private. I think that's a pretty serious violation of the sunshine law. I think any meeting, any committee has, you could certainly do it by executive session if you wish, but you can't have a meeting in secret of the governing body and do deliberation. But maybe I didn't hear right. I'll have to listen to the audio. Hopefully that's not true. And hopefully the Office of Law will stop that as a violation of the sunshine law. But hopefully we'll see how that works out. Legislation on the fly. I'm glad Mr. Urban brought that up. That item number 1, I just can't believe that we sit here at this meeting and draft legislation, members of council, and then when we want to change an ordinance to draft an ordinance to adopt home rule or to change home rule, we have the Office of Law weighing in at every turn. But we're legislating on the fly and there's not a word said about that. Kind of interesting. I would seriously like, and I brought this up many times also as a council member, the dates on the resolutions and ordinances are imperative. We do not get a date on any signature of anybody's name on any resolution or ordinance. Yet the manager has a 5-day window to reconsider, but there is no date as when she signed it. That needs to change, folks. The legislation needs to have a date. When you sign your name, please put a date by it. Don't just sign the thing and then hope to God somebody doesn't figure out that you signed it 20 days ago. The manager has a 5-day window for reconsideration. It's imperative that we know when council signed the law into place and when the manager got to see it. So somewhere down the road, we don't have a conundrum that the manager comes back and says, I didn't get a chance to reconsider that. Hasn't happened yet, but it may. Please put the date on there. Sound system. We do not have a sound system in this building. Everybody comes up and touches this and talks into that. We do not have a sound system. Please speak up, council members. I mean, we cannot hear you. I know we try to be discreet, but this is a public meeting. People in the back row need to hear. So if you could do that, that would be much appreciated. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Griffith. Ms. Morgan?
I'm Jessica French Morgan. I'm from Dallas, Pennsylvania, Dallas Borough. And I'd like to say that I've watched and rewatched and listened and re-listened to the 3 people that were in front of you to be the managers. I would choose either of the 2 gentlemen because they had a plan. And any manager, that's the first thing you know, is that you have a plan of action. The acting county manager obviously did not have a plan and does not have a plan. Secondly, I'd like to say that I was kind of chagrined that none of the questions that you asked any of the people had to do with our election bureau. We know that the election bureau has been in disarray for years. Our acting manager spent $70,000 to hire a group to come in to fix the elections, but the elections weren't fixed. They were messed up badly. And I wonder what the chances are going to be with 3 elections coming up this year that you're going to have any of them work out smoothly. I think those chances are slim to none. Lastly, I'd like to say I've been arguing with the council and the board for the past 2 months about lock boxes. And I'm glad to say that finally, our DA is taking it seriously. And I hope that the lock boxes will be gone so that we can have at least one good thing to say about the elections. Thank you.
Miss Mary Ann Velez.
Good evening. I'm Mary Ann Velez, Chairwoman, co-founder of United NEPA Alliance, local nonprofit organization here in
And your
Luzerne County.
municipality is set on here.
Thank you for your time this evening. My comment is in regard to the county manager. I implore,
Miss Velez, the municipality you reside in.
oh, Duryea, I apologize. Thank you. I implore county council to seriously weigh in on who you choose as county manager. I truly believe the constituents have voiced their concern. They have voiced who they would like to see hired as county manager. Your decision should be based on your constituents, not state representatives who may be applying pressure to have their choice hired, not by members of the community who are applying pressure to have their choice hired, but that of the constituents. I also believe that if county council is holding meetings in regard to the hiring of county managers, any type of affair where the constituents have a right to weigh in, those meetings should be made public prior to being executed. The constituents of Luzerne County have a right to know what their elected officials are up to. Although you may receive a minimal salary, it is their tax dollars that pay that salary. You are public servants and you have an obligation to answer to your constituents. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Velez. Miss Kim Halegan, I'm not sure if I'm saying your last name correctly. Kim Yalegan?
Might be in the rotunda. What's her name?
Kim,
How do you spell last name?
Haleyin. It looks like.
Helium? Oh, you got it? Okay.
She's passing on her voice.
Okay. Miss Emily Foreman? There we go. Thank you, Mr. Fitzgerald. What? Here, some of these people aren't running to go on the way in. Miss Foreman, if you could also just state your municipality.
All right, I currently live up in Avoca on the Luzerne County side. Now, if we're getting taxed, I'd like to see some of that money go towards our roads. I have a vehicle for myself and the person that lives with me. In the last 2 years, I replaced 6 controller arms, 2 struts, 3 rims, and countless tires. Now, that's now close to $4 grand out of my pocket that I had to spend because I couldn't avoid potholes. Not only that, if you look at the landlords, some of these out-of-state landlords that rent up here, the last landlord we had allowed a drug dealer to move in below me. And every time the cops were called, I got yelled at because the property manager and the landlord believed him when he said the cops were there for me. I have not had a cop at my door come looking for me unless I had information in the case and they were looking for that information. He actually threatened my life. And it was my fault that he threatened me. It's time to start clamping down on some of this stuff. I originally lived in Trenton, New Jersey when I was a kid. There was none of this going down there. My mother moved to a suburb of Langhorne, where down near Philly, where I graduated high school. None of this. But if you have one of these out-of-state landlords that don't fix their properties, we waited 2 years to have a wall fixed. The basement was full of mold and asbestos. He still has yet to fix that one. Thank God we moved out of there. Not only that, it's really bad in this area when your elected officials are worried more about pensions. Because I've seen, especially in Wilkes-Barre Borough, I know for a fact that part-time people, if for the city, get full pensions from there. There's money that could be freed up from that could go towards the roads. It can go towards other programs in the area. Considering the person I live with and I are both in recovery from drugs and alcohol. Between the two of us, we're coming up on 41 years clean in the household. Very little. There is very little out there that has funding to help those in the community. Now, I'm glad I have the tools to do it, but that's because I've worked hard for 22 years to keep myself on the straight and narrow.
Thank you.
So, thank you.
Just as a response to that comment, our district attorney's office has been doing an amazing job, and I just want to give them a lot of credit for what they've been doing to try to get drugs off the streets of Luzerne County. They've been working with local municipalities, with police departments. They've been putting together task forces, and I've seen it personally in my town. I've seen it down in Hazleton. They've done it numerous times in numerous areas, and I'm really, really happy for them. And I know that it's a slow process and it's really difficult, but it's one day at a time and it's one house at a time, really. And it's frustrating to me. I live near people like that. But again, like I said, it's one day at a time and one house at a time. And as far as the out-of-state landlords are concerned, we know as the new council, we talked a lot about blight during the election. We know that that's a huge contributor to blight. So we're very concerned about that as well.
Thank you, Mr. Lombardo. Mr. Gutierrez?
I had an agenda, but I got to go off mine and what everybody else stated. Andy Gagaris, Denison Township, and I admire the efforts at council, and God bless Ms. Grokamo. I've been in your seat and I like them much better on the other side. It's easier out here. You're getting roasted. Everybody's getting accused, this, that, and everything else. We've got to come together to work together for a community. And what I wanted to start with was the agenda items, but I've got 4 or 5 things that I don't know if I'm going to be able to cover in 3 minutes. So I'm going to try to get through those and then allow some responses. The small business money from the ARA funds, I believe. It's been tabled. It's not on an agenda. When will it get to an agenda? Kirby Ave. If I heard correctly and what I understand, we're waiting for that federal money that might not get here for 2 years. What are we going to do? I mean, there's money on the table right now. There's money. Mountaintop, Fairview, the Council of Governments could get together and write a LSA grant on behalf of the county, like many, like the YMCA does for Wilkes-Barre. And the same thing, the Industrial Park Road is run by the chamber. There's how many state reps right now that could be spearheading that project? That's about 3 miles of roads that affect all the, like Mr. Perry said, he has no choice. I've got people in Whitehaven. I'm complaining about the roads in Whitehaven and Denison Township. They said, we're a poor county. Look at Mountaintop. They're struggling too. But if we write an LSA with the sponsorship from the chamber, from those municipalities, then our elected officials will have no choice but to act on it. I've had to answer to elected state officials to say, Andy, you know that money's only $11 million? And where does it go? We're funding private industries. We're giving that LSA money away like walking around money. And that's where we need to hold our state officials accountable. So I'd love to sit down and pitch that. The LSAs, there's numerous LSAs and other types of funding that could be used right now to address it. And we talked about the committees, the council committees. We started more, or we're going to advertise and try to do another one. Who is responsible for the actions of those committees that they do meet, like Mr. Griffith brought out, and who holds them accountable that they're meeting their goals and objectives? And if not, what are we going to do? Why do we have them? And some of the things that are leading me to this point is we have elected officials, some that were just elected to represent us at the county level, are now circulating petitions to run and move on to another level. What about the obligation that those voters entrusted in you to represent us in countywide initiatives? To represent the taxpayers, the constituents that voted you in? Where's the plan? That's all one of the primary concern that I have. I guess that's my timer. And thank you for your patience in trying to sort through. And to finish, I know you had the opportunity to eliminate some public comment. I am frustrated and I struggle to try to articulate what I want to get across because I feel like I'm under pressure because I only have 3 minutes. Can council meet? Or can the administration meet outside of a regular meeting where it's just public dialogue? Where the agenda is, let's take an hour and sit down and hear what people have to say, where poor Kendra doesn't have to say, that's not on the agenda. I don't mean that as criticism, because you're only playing with the rules that are laid out ahead of you.
That is a good suggestion, and I.
And I know you put enough time in. I know you're out there, and I know people are trying, and I don't want to come down as you don't care. But the apathy, the people in our community, I've been here 54 short years, all throughout Luzerne County, educated, worked as a city manager. I know how hard it is in this area, and I know the reputations that this area has. And it's not the people that I'm used to being around and seeing that are being represented by that reputation. People care here. People want to care. And you guys are new. Most of you are new to this. You never saw meetings packed like this before. And people are starting to organize and try to articulate. And it comes across as controversial or it comes across as attacking, but it doesn't feel like we have the opportunity to follow the system that's laid out for us.
Thank you.
Thank
So
you.
we'll be- Structure, we're going to go to different local.
Well, we did reach out. I did reach out to you about the tolling
Oh,
of the
we're
the
gonna
I-80
have
bridges.
something on the 31st, but about the road infrastructure. So we'll have them in different areas. So all the residents of Luzerne County will be able to have access, and hopefully we'll be rolling out those dates shortly and locations.
But that meeting that I sent you the email about and called to ask if you received the email, is that we are going to be able to do that virtually so that
Yes.
state represent, oh, okay.
Yeah,
I
we
was
are.
not sure that was going to be
Yeah.
virtual. Thank
We're
you.
talking about the bridge at Whitehaven,
Thank you.
the toll bridge.
Thank you. Also, I just want to make an announcement for those of you on the Zoom call. Those comments that you put in there do not get read to the public. So if you want to unmute yourself and speak during public comment, you can, but these comments cannot be as inappropriate as they are. If we could keep the chats clean on the Zoom, not something I thought I'd have to say, but please be respectful. Okay, Ms. Acosta?
Ken, I'm sorry, just the answer to the putting that item back on the agenda for the small business aid, that millions of dollars that, I mean, if it's just like the roads, if that money's not allocated, in 2 years, we're gonna lose the businesses that are out there, the small businesses.
So we will have that issue up again in front of council, but the administration.
might be the agenda, or-
No, the administration is going to be posting in the next few weeks an application process
For the small business.
for any interested agency or organization that may want some part of the ARP money.
The $20 million, Mr. Scaglia, we were talking about that we tabled to make sure that it was gonna.
That'll be part of it.
I just want to make sure I'm talking about the same thing.
And the reason I made that motion, because of all the problems you're spilling out here tonight, roads, bridges, everything.
Well, you explained it to me. I
Yeah,
agree.
so I said, let's take care of our house first. And then we'll reach out. And at the end, if there's 6 million, 7 million left, more than happy to give it to small business. But the fact of the matter, for us to get blindsided with a $6.5 million repair at this county-owned airport, to find out later after the fact when we gave out the money, then come to you, the taxpayers, and say, hey, guess what? We're short $6.5 million. We're gonna have to shut down that airport. Now you're gonna be mad because we have to raise your taxes to cover that $6.5 million.
Not me. I just respectfully disagree because there's families out there that have businesses in this community for generations that don't know if they're gonna be able to open.
So we're going to get all the information. to
But I
you.
just wanted to just clarify it was the same pot of money or.
It is the same pot.
Will that was talking about something.
Yep.
It's just, there's we're receiving a total of $112 million. In April, we'll be receiving $56 million. We already received $56 million.
And for me and the people I'm talking to, it doesn't have to be a grant. Give it a revolving, give us a chance where we don't have to go pay 7, 8, 9, 10% somewhere that we can get back and fund, as we get through this.
What we are going to do with the administration is provide council. Council needs as much information as possible to make the decision. And we are going to get them that information. And then we'll have discussions about various requests for that money. And one of them will be the small businesses, but we will have the application process posted. You supply the application. We're going to then advise council what organizations, what entities ask for the money, and then council, because council will ultimately make the decision on how that money is distributed. But they need to have all the information before they can make the decision. But we are doing it.
We saw what happened with UGI. I agree with you 110% on that. But is this early summer, late summer, fall, late fall that you intend on this being available?
Will we have the application process posted within the next week or 2 weeks? And then we'll have 30 days to respond. Individuals or agencies will have 30 days to respond, and we'll gather that information and then provide it to council.
And do you think there might be assistance provided to these small businesses that aren't used to applying for this, that somebody doesn't write a little bit better letter or something like that that can help give you, like, I was not eligible the last time to apply because I didn't have, I was a business owner.
There are organizations, whether it be in the Hazleton area and Wilkes-Barre, that can help you with that. You have my email me again and I'll arrange that you can hook up with them.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Ms. Acosta, am I pronouncing that correctly?
Yes, you are.
Sure.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Denise Acosta from Wilkes-Barre. I'm going on a whole nother subject tonight. A lot of you know of me and have seen me around. I am currently on the Children and Youth Advisory Board, thanks to all of you, which I love, because I love working with the families and the communities here in Luzerne County. But I have been sitting and just so quiet and not saying anything. Families need to see you. Families need to hear your voices, not only here in these meetings. We need to get out in these communities and introduce ourselves to these families. Let them know who you are. Let them know what it is that you do. We can't do this only when it's time for elections. That's the only time I see your face. No, the families need to see you. And I'm speaking for the families because I get a lot of phone calls. Well, Denise, who do I contact for this? Who do I contact for that? And I'm giving out phone numbers. I ask families to come down to the meetings. But we need to get out into these communities and meet these families here in Luzerne County. I love Luzerne County. I moved here from New York. It's 6 years this year, and I love it here. Okay? Please, that's what I'm asking. And I know you all are great. Some of you I know, I see all the time. Please get out in the communities. I know with COVID, it slowed a lot down. But get out, meet the families, shake a hand. I am such and such. This is what I do. Let the families know who you are, okay? You're a great team. I know a lot of you are new into council. I know a lot of you that's out doing a lot of things. But please get out to the families and let them know what it is that you do, because Luzerne County is not a bad county. This is our county. Thank you.
Mr. Costa, Mr. Yorkzauer, I apologize if I did not pronounce that correctly.
You said that better than I did.
And what municipality are you from?
Mountain Top.
Mountain Top, thank you.
Madam Chair, members of council, thank you for allowing me to address you briefly. My name is Brett Yorkshire. Oh, you can't hear? You're probably none the worse for it.
Yeah. There's a little thing on there, it's like a little black box, that's the microphone.
This here.
That's all.
Yeah, that'll make sure the Zoom people can hear you.
Okay. Thank you for allowing me the time to speak to you briefly. Can you hear me now?
Sort of, but I'm right here.
I'll
Just
try
yell
to.
at us, everybody else does.
It's against my nature, but I'll give it a shot.
Okay.
So I'm blessed to be surrounded by scenic beauty where I live. And I know my neighbor here, Mr. Perry, understands what I'm talking about. Populated by the lion's share of people are compassionate, respectful, caring people. Sadly, it stands in sharp contrast to our crumbling infrastructure. And in particular, our road. Not only do our roads pose unannounced hazards, as we all drive them, we're all familiar with this problem, rendering our vehicles, damaged, requiring investments of money that could be spent elsewhere that we can ill afford. But the other thing it advertises is that we're a county in decay. And it's a very salient feature. It's one of the first things one sees when one traverses our roads. And I'm concerned that it would impair new businesses, new families from joining our ranks because of this decay. And so I've been listening this evening, and I'm very happy to hear that this is widely recognized and that there's a plan to do something about it. I would ask that there be some sort of time frame assigned to doing that, rather than just drag on and on. It would be, I think, important that because of its urgent nature, and because the roads will only further deteriorate, requiring even more investment of money, that there'd be perhaps a short-term and long-term plan, but there'd be some sort of time assigned to it. I see my time is up, but I thank you again.
Thank you. Do we have any other members of the public that wish to speak? Yeah.
Hi, on Zoom, Elizabeth Hartman, Hanover Township.
Go ahead, Ms. Hartman.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for your time and for what you do for our community. I didn't know Ms. Acosta was going to be there tonight. My comment actually has to do with the advisory board. When you, earlier this evening, you made like a committee that's going to meet in private. During all the stuff that we had going on, it was in the middle of COVID, I reached out to that committee, the Children and Youth Advisory Board, and I was told basically come to a meeting, but COVID was happening, so I need to get back in front of them. But it scares me that you voted on something where they're going to have, if I heard correctly, and then I think Walter backed that up, that they can meet in private. So that concerns me very much. And then my other comment is, and it's against probably everybody that's there. And a lot of times, when we're saying something, a lot of people in the audience are all together. My feeling on the county manager position is I feel like if we get somebody from out of the area, it's going to take them so long to get up to speed with everything that we have. Like the gentleman right before me said, a decaying county. That's exactly what we have. We have a decaying county. And I would hope that if Ramilda gets that position and stays in that position, because I believe she does have a plan. You hear her speak tonight and say what's going to happen, what she has planned, what she has going on. Who knows? She may be the one to come in and kick ass in this county and get us where we need to be. So again, everybody there that knows me and knows how I am, I'm sorry that I'm against you, but I just had to make my point. I just feel that somebody out of the county, like she had said one time, children and youth was an onion that had to be peeled. We have a 50-pound bag of onions at every door of that courthouse, on every road in this county. We have it on the river. Like we're restoring the courthouse. If that river comes over the banks, bye-bye courthouse. We're gonna start from scratch. Don't worry about the third floor. That's falling apart. Thank you for your time. Have a good night.
Thank you, Ms. Hartman. Any other members of the public that wish to speak?
Yes, my name is Vivian Kreidler Lucina. My question, I'm from Nescopeck. I really have two questions. One is about the bridge that sits on Black Creek Road. We were told that that bridge was a historical monument. We learned that there's no markings on it to prove that's a historical monument, but it's been closed down since 2015. Any insight of when that bridge may be reopening?
Is that the end of your comment? If you want to just say everything
Okay,
that you'd like to say, then we'll address it.
Okay, then the other thing is the homestead that back in July you said put out stating about putting it on the table about giving homeowners back that were on the homestead like $600 with this CARES Act money. I sent a message to an email to all councilmen. I received one back. I see no problem with the money going to projects being done as long as they're not going to be parks where we're going to end up where, you know, there's drug dealers and other things going on in that park that should be made for kids, for children. But you have to look at too is the elderly. They're the backbone of our community. If it wasn't for any of them, none of us would be here. I mean, to give a little bit back to them, whether it be a check for $600 or taking more off of their school taxes would be more of a beneficiary than anything else. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'd just like to make a comment on the review committee, as Walter said. I didn't hear the word private. The word private is in there.
So the review committee is not going to have any, so they're not going to make any decisions. Basically, all the review committee is they're not going to have meetings because, or public meetings because they're not going to have meetings. All they are is council members that will be a part of, we address this at work session, but just so everybody knows, they're just going to be council members that are a part of negotiations for contracts, CBAs, LERTAs, pilots, as soon as it gets into the county. So this way there's council representation at every step of the way. So by the time it gets to all of council, then we have council members that were in on those discussions. So no decisions will be made, you know, in private. It's just like an executive session, no deliberations, no discussions. It's just going to be so that council members can be part of that discussion.
So, and if I could, hi, it's Shannon, if I could, hi, I'm sorry, it's Shannon, if I could pipe in. The Sunshine Act doesn't apply to less than a quorum of council. So technically, all of council's committee meetings do not need to be held in public. The reason why they are is because your bylaws say so, which is why the motion was to say the bylaws you know, won't require those provisions for the review committee because they are sensitive topics with litigation or negotiations. We don't want to be out in public negotiating against ourselves. So the Sunshine Act doesn't apply to begin with, but you know, so there's no problem there.
And this is Vito. If I could add to that, I know we had talked a while about council being put in a position a lot of times where matters that have to be approved or considered by council, coming to council and council having questions about whether or not certain provisions should have been negotiated or should be in certain agreements. We all sort of agreed that this was a better way to get a committee of council involved at the earliest possible time with, again, like Shannon said, with the collective bargaining, with LERTAs, with pilots, with, I mean, even the agreement that we had just earlier this evening, where council obviously had a number of questions and concerns about it. A committee of council could have been involved at the earliest time with those matters. Been involved right with the negotiations and the discussions. And then by the time we would get to to this point where you're on a voting session, council would already be fully informed.
Thank you, Attorney DeLuca. Did that answer your question, Mr. Commissioner? Any other members of the public that wish to speak?
Yeah, this is Vivian
Madam
Craig.
Chairwoman,
Yes?
Madam Chairwoman, this is Jason Carr from Salisbury, Pennsylvania.
Go ahead, Mr. Carr.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Madam Chairwoman, I would like to know from Councilman Brian Thornton and Kevin Lescavage if they met with State Representative Udechak this weekend.
Please
Yes.
address council. Well, we can't single out council members.
No, Madam Chairwoman, I would like to know if any members of council this weekend met with State Senator John Udechak regarding the hiring of specifically Romilda Crocamo to the permanent manager's position, and what was discussed and what deals were potentially made. I was told by other Madam Chairwoman, I was told by other members on County Council that these meetings secretly took place, and I would like an understanding of what actually happened. I think you would agree with me, Madam Chairwoman, possibly that the people of Luzerne County, as well as everyone in that room, are exhausted of the backroom politics that used to be with, Judge Chivarella, Judge Conyngham, among others. And what is actually happening with this process? And could any member who met or spoke with Mr. Udechak this weekend elaborate on what they spoke about?
Is that the end of your comment, Mr. Carr?
Yes, it is. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other members of the public?
I'd like to just make a quick comment.
Sure, go ahead, Mr.
I take exception to Mr. Carr's comments, lumping me in with the corruption and the fraud of 12 years ago in this county with the judges that went to prison. That's unfair. It's uncalled for. And I will tell everybody, the public, for many years, I served on West Pittston Borough Council. And as such, as every local political leader should do, including county council members, they should form relationships with their state legislators to encourage state funding and federal funding coming to your jurisdiction. I am friends with many of the local state legislators, including Aaron Coffer, Lisa Baker, John Udechak, and I speak regularly with them, probably more than weekly, on issues for the past 16 or 17 years. I can assure you there were no backdoor or basement deals done regarding any of this county manager hire. That's all I have to say.
But was there an actual discussion with any members of council?
Mr. Brennan, you spoke during your public comment time, and that is all.
answered, so I feel I'm in the room. I have a right to defend myself.
Hello, could I get an
So-
answer to the two questions that I had proposed?
Excuse me, ma'am, I just want to reply to Mr. Carter. So I will never hide the fact that I reach out to John Udechak, Aaron Coffer, or anybody else. And I don't mind saying what was discussed. 3 bridges, the Sarah project, and numerous other topics like maybe possibly $100 million to fix the roads in this county. And I'll never apologize for that. Now, what he just did, and I like to think that I had that much power over everybody sitting around this room to get them to vote my way, highly unlikely. Because now what you did is insulted the intelligence of every single person in this room sitting at these tables to say that they can't make up a decision with their own minds. And I take offense to that also.
Thank you, Mr. Brennan.
Is there an answer for the exact question or no?
Do we have any
What's the
members
question?
of the public that wish to speak?
Was the appointment of the manager discussed specifically?
I just
I
said,
didn't ask it.
I just said what was discussed. I just
You said numerous other things though as well. I mean, was that part of them?
potholes, roads, I spelled it all out, right? I don't mind telling you, I will meet on a Sunday, a Monday, a Saturday with any person that's willing to give money to this county, right? Because I don't believe when I look in the paper and I read online the amount of money that goes out the door, and we don't get our fair share.
Still, the question was asked about if you were discussing the county manager appointment with.
I'll answer that.
Yeah, what was that?
We didn't, you're labeling it as a county manager appointment discussion.
Yeah.
We,
that's not
no,
the question.
no, that's not what happened. Did about 35 people this weekend and today call me and give me input and tell me who they supported? Absolutely. There was no meetings to make deals. There was no agreements, okay, things like that. That would include many attorneys of the county. That would include all of the state officials we just mentioned. Call us, tell us regularly who they think should be the best person for this job or that job, or county sheriff over the years. Absolutely. I don't think that's out of the question. I think that's actually part of good relationships with your state officials.
But what will we find out in 6 months, 8 months, 4 months that we didn't find out in the last 7 months? Like the advantage of cable right now.
Right.
What is the figure based on the information we had? If this alleged meeting didn't take place, and I'm not making any accusations at all, but I was told, I heard it on the street on Friday that it was going to be tabled.
I'm sorry, I have to take control of the meeting. The way that the meeting
I'll
is set
talk,
up.
I'll
is
talk to you
that
about that up the hall.
We have public comment. We have a
No, we
3-minute
don't
public
like to
comment
hear that.
session. Excuse me.
We don't like it. That's the
Mr. Newman.
problem.
Mr.
On the
Newman,
head.
can you please?
You'll talk out there, talk here to all of
Can
us.
you please?
I'm sorry.
For exercising his First Amendment.
I'm not calling.
I mean,
All I did is express my.
Let me just say one more word. I myself, no exaggeration, had at least 75 calls today. I was given a lot of information from past council people that sat here. And what I personally want to see this taken off the agenda tonight, I want time to digest what I was told through the course of my day while I still have to try to work.
There were
So-
3 candidates presented, and you had that information, and just like everybody else got.
I'm sorry. I have to keep order in a meeting. That is my job, is to keep order in this meeting. There's a public comment before the voting agenda and a public comment after. People that are speaking were all allowed their 3 minutes to speak. If anybody is accusing council members of corruption and bathroom deals, you can walk over to the DA's office. Right now, if anybody who did not speak already would like to speak for 3 minutes, you are allowed to.
For the record, I didn't hear any accusation.
I
heard it. No one did that. If what I said was construed as that, I'll
It was
clarify it
Mr.
right now.
It was
Mr.
Mr.
Carr made that.
Okay, I just so.
Okay, none of us said that.
It was Mr. Carr.
Okay, sorry. I didn't know.
Excuse me, could I please get an answer?
We'll get back to you on your question about the historical nature of the bridge. I'm sorry, your last name, I'm not sure, but Vivian, we'll get back to you on that answer to that question.
Hello, I'm Julius Zuckerwar. I'm mostly concerned about the drugs going on in Luzerne County, number one. Number two, if you look at how many overdose we had in this county already, I think it's time that the law enforcement, sheriffs, local police officers, state troopers, all need to work together along with the county to get these drugs off the streets, and maybe more training for these officers. And that's coming from someone that's in recovery. Because I broke out in cuffs when I used. And I was sent down here from New York, from a judge. Thank God that judge saved my life. To come down to Pennsylvania, and I looked at that judge, I'm here like, you send me where? Pennsylvania. Where the heck is Pennsylvania? I never even heard of Pennsylvania. Never even heard of Wilkes-Barre. Thank God for the counselors that helped me. And it wasn't none of these officers here in Luzerne County that helped me. And not only that, well, you can't even walk these streets at night anymore. I got jumped one time. And I'll tell you, this is how crazy Wilkes-Barre Police Department is. I'm sorry to say it, but this is how crazy they are. We called them. They said, what do you want us to do? Do your job. That's what you're hired for. Protect the people in this county. And it's not being done. Don't say it is, because it's not. Because if it was, there wouldn't be all these overdoses going on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other members of the public who did not speak? Hearing none, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Mr. Urban has something.
Hello?
Public comment.
Need to wait for public comment to be answered before you adjourn your meetings. You are on the internet.
What the hell's that to do with it?
Got a lot
Well,
to do
I
with it
asked
because
you-
it's a time play.
I asked 2 questions and neither one were answered.
We'll get back to you at the next meeting with an answer on the bridge. We don't have a prepared, I'm not sure the answer to your question at this time. I don't know if anyone is here that knows the answer to your question, so we'll have to get back to you.
Okay, and what about the homestead?
That was Harry House's
Oh, the
initiative,
money.
the $600.
Ma'am, as I said in the email that I sent you in return, we are actively looking into it. Several council members are actively looking into it. So, I mean, you may hear something about that in the coming weeks or days, but as of right now, we don't actively have anything on an upcoming agenda about it.
We're sticking to the application process so that we can see everything that needs money, everybody, every entity that needs ARPA money, and we'll consider once we have an exhaustive list.
Then don't you think it would have been nice not to put that out in the into the newspapers back in July and getting people's hopes up in Luzerne County?
It was on the agenda. We have a new council now. We did not have a final rule on the ARPA funding. We do now, and we're considering all options. Thank
Okay.
you. Any other? I think Mr. Urban was.
I think Mr. Shiner.
Oh, Mr. Shiner, did you have anything?
Yes, I do. Your IT department keeps muting me after I press *6 to unmute. So it's a little difficult to get through. And I would appreciate it if in the future, when you're asking for public comment from the people that are attending remotely, that you give us a couple seconds because there is a time delay. On the agenda tonight, items 5 and 6 say handout. However, the handout is not posted online. If there's time to print one to hand out to everybody, I think there's time to post it prior to the meeting. And that would be very helpful to the public so we know what you're actually talking about, because handout doesn't mean anything when we can't see it. Also, when you're tallying the vote, it'd be nice if it was spoken loudly enough to be able to be heard instead of just mumbled, because we can't hear it online. Of course, then again, we couldn't hear it when we were in the room either, because there's no sound system in there anymore. But you need to speak up and let the public hear what's going on. My last item is you had John Newman removed because he was speaking out of turn. And I can understand that, but Ms. Radel, I think you better look at the proper procedures on that. You must warn a person that if they do not be quiet, you will have them removed. You cannot just have them removed by a sheriff, or you're putting yourself in a liability situation. I know for a fact because a chairperson tried to do that to me at one point. And I didn't do anything about it except, talk about it afterwards. But you cannot treat the people that way. You've got to give them fair notice that you are going to send them out if they do not come to order. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shiner. Mr.
Anybody else on my?
I don't see any hands up. I don't see. If anybody
Thank you. I mean, what I'm actually gonna say is right now, what I see is a community that is really in need of a lot of answers from the council here. I mean, we are just one body of government in Luzerne County. We represent the county on county initiatives. Some of the issues that were talked about today are also municipal issues. You have municipal elected officials and supervisors, councils, mayors. And you need to also address them on certain police issues, police matters. The right forum. Sometimes this forum is not the correct forum for certain public issues. Maybe we need to do a better job with outreach or have a solutions type of committee where we have other elected officials here. County manager should probably have her leadership staff on some of these county meetings so they could take some notes to address some of your concerns within the departments that we can control as a county entity. And looking forward, maybe we could come up with some type of solution and have more, dialogue on where to address those needs of the public. I'm hearing this, there's a lot of cries out in the public to do service for all of you. We have to keep in mind there's limited funding. Maybe we need to co-op certain initiatives. I do like your suggestion on the LSA grant. I mean, we do have state elected officials. All of us as county council have the ability to pick up the phone and talk to our legislative staff. And I wouldn't admonish Mr. Miscavige or Mr. Thornton for having those relationships prior to coming here. They have that ability to speak. And I think, you have a new council too. Some of us are still learning the ropes like Mr. Vignes, Mr. Wilovich. We're all trying to do a good job for this county. It's a much more cohesive body, I think, than you've seen in the past. A lot of us are communicating. You might not see it every day. All of us, many of us work in the private sector. This is supposed to be a part-time job, but we're doing more than full-time hours. I can tell you that and assure you that. And I believe all of us have the good intentions to move Luzerne County forward. Yes, we need to start working together a lot more. Have that open dialogue. There's only limited amount of money, in every aspect of government. And maybe we need to do a better job at consolidating services. So Mr. Schnee, Mr. Lombardo, if you ever go to the state, maybe we need to consolidate government, and the duplication and the overlap where, you're wasting money on unnecessary duplication. If it has to deal with the police, be able to come up with like what you're doing on the west side and regionalize it, so you have better opportunities to spend money wisely, get better equipment, better training. We have to think outside the box in order to fix all the roads. Start taking, I applaud the audience for being here and putting us to the test and putting us to the grind today. And some of us will put county staff to the grind. That's our job. We hear the message loud and clear. And believe me, we weren't ready to take a vote tonight because some of us do talk after hours. It's one-on-one. We're bouncing ideas off of each other. We all have our hearts in the right place for Luzerne County. And I can't say that, and I can't stress that enough. We all have well intentions and good intentions for this. Now, how we get there, we differ in philosophy. We fight like hell sometimes. But at the end of the day, we're one Luzerne County. We need to band together. We need to find solutions, and we need to find, I think what I'm hearing is a cry for better leadership in this county, starting from the executive branch down. That particular position has a lot of power. And Mr. Pedri, when he had it, told me, because you can do a lot in this position. I never forgot those words on the other side of the table when I was on council the first time. And unfortunately, there's just not enough resources. We have to be more transparent with the public. Yes, we probably have to actively engage some of our council committees to do a better job. So then we're not having these meetings last till the wee hours of the morning, and we can have a better public dialogue where that 3-minute limit can be lifted, and we can have actually a conversation and solutions. So, I know I hear you loud and clear. I think Mr. Miscavige, Wilovich, all of us hear you loud and clear. We know what you want. We know you want the roads fixed. There's money coming in. How it's going to be parsed up, we got to take and start prioritizing. County manager knows that I will ride them pretty hard sometimes. And, you know, and they need to prioritize their list. You know, but I think you need to give this council a chance. Half of us just got here, the other half have been here. You know, I don't need it, we're not trying to tell each other what to do. We're just trying to feed the information to each other so that we're all on the same page.
Thank you, Mr. Irving. And I just want all the members of the public to know that I do think that a public forum that Mr. Guerrero suggested could be a good idea, but I want you all, I want you all to have a voice, but I also have to, I have to prevent chaos at a meeting, so I hope we can see where I'm coming from on that. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I just say, I bought everybody waters outside. I got 24 waters for everybody cool.
Motion to adjourn.
Yeah. That's all.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There's a meeting here. Guys, 8:20 for the work
Make sure you tell them.
Jacob or Jackson, are you okay?
Okay, so it's like sidebar talk?
Yeah,
No, I didn't
that's a
hear-
good idea.
I'll get him. I'll get
Everybody has a mic in front of them, unmute it.
There you go. Green.
Are we all ready?
I'm green.
Okay, it's 8:23. We're gonna call the work session to order. We already did the pledge of allegiance and a moment of silence. Can I have a roll call, Ms. Warren?
Mr. Venus.
Present.
Mr. LaScavitch.
Here.
Mr. Lombardo.
Here.
Mr. McDermott.
Here.
Mr. McGinley. Mr. Perry.
Here.
Mr. Schneid.
Present.
Mr. Thornton.
Here.
Mr. Urban.
Here.
Mr. Lovett.
Here.
Mr. Radel.
Here.
10 of 11.
Deletions from the work session agenda. Item number 1, the airport expansion presentation will be moved to 2 weeks from now. Do we have any other additions? or deletions? Hearing none, do we have a motion to adopt the work session?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions. Okay, the agenda is adopted. Our first order of business is our controller annual report. Mr. Griffith, take it away.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Please, if you have a timer there, please set the timer for 10 minutes. If I see it, when it goes off, then I'll know I got to close up pretty quick. So if you would do that, I'd appreciate it because I have, when you're making a presentation, you may not have a concept of time. And I don't want to keep, it's a late hour and I want to be respectful for your time.
We appreciate that. Thank
Yep,
you.
not a problem. So I'll go through the slides fairly quickly. The first slide obviously is my motto is a voice for the people. I was elected as the county controller once again. And it's a real honor to represent the people of the county in this position one more time. I really appreciate their trust in me. I appreciate the opportunity to sit in the position that I'm in again and to represent the people in probably one of the most critical positions that are available in the county as one of the other elected positions other than the district attorney and county council. It's very important that we have a county controller that represents the people and keeps an eye on the policies and procedures of the county, as well as other audits of tax collectors and the financial aspect. Most of the things that the county controller can and should do in this county is keep an eye on the county charter, keep an eye on policy and procedure to be helpful to the manager and the executive branch as well as council to instruct them and enlighten them on places where there may be shortcomings or places we could be more efficient. I think it's very important that we have a controller that's willing to work with everybody. And I will tell you that I've grown over the 10 years that I've been involved in this government. From 2012 and today, I've grown, I've become more mature and more tempered. And so I have absolutely no problem trying to work with any member of council to provide information that you may need, that you possibly can't get from some other source, whether the manager is busy. Feel free to contact my office at any time. I'm there to help everybody here in the county, executive branch as well. I have a very good relationship so far with the executive branch. IT department's been spectacular for me in the last 3 months trying to set my office up. And things are going quite well. So I appreciate the opportunity to be here. County Controller's annual report, according to the charter, is a requirement of the charter.
that I give a presentation each year to council and to the public of the status of the county controller's office, as well as the finances and the audits that we conducted last year, as well as the audits that we may conduct in ensuing years, particularly this year, particularly with a 5-year plan. The powers and duties of the controller are clearly outlined in the charter. It's an independent watchdog. He's supposed to oversee the fiscal performance, management, contract, grant compliance, and or related audits of any county division, department, bureau, office, agency, authority, board, commission, elected office, the judiciary, office of court administration, or other administrative unit. As you can see from that statement in the charter, the controller's office has incredible authority and ability to identify. And that's basically the power of the controller, is to identify and to bring findings to council and to the manager to correct those findings. And we have no ability at all in the controller's office to require anybody to follow our recommendations. However, as a controller, I could bring findings to council and say these findings have not been addressed. And then the council can take appropriate measures with the executive branch to be sure that they are addressed. The next slide deals with the unrestricted access that the controller has. The controller's office has the ability to ask for any information, provide ample time to the administration as well as council for any information that the controller needs to perform his duties. It cannot be restricted in any way. We have access to any kind of policies or software or anything that we need in order to conduct our office functions. Responsibilities of the controller is it's an independent office, and it's that way by design. So we are not mandated by the manager. We're not mandated by the courts. We're not mandated by the district attorney's office. We're mandated by our office to do the job that's outlined in the charter. And we therefore will not have any inhibitants or abilities to be restricted in our access. So let me go to the audit monitoring parameters. That slide demonstrates the things that we will look for when we do an audit. Fraud, human error, separation of duties, inefficient operations, inadequate checks and balances, non-compliance with rules and regulations, contract and program compliance. Council will remember last year when we had an issue with the IT department with contracts, and acting manager Crocomo asked the controller's office to take a look at the procedures and policies that we follow to do contracts. That's one of the things that the controller can do, and we can do that at request of council or the manager. So our office is there to serve the people, and we're there to serve council and the manager at any time. If you need something, feel free to contact my office, and we'll be more than happy to try and accommodate. The 2021 audit summary. These are the audits that were done by former controller Michelle Bednar in her office. They did a fabulous job on some of the things that they audited. They audited the magistrate's offices, and you'll see that there was no findings and they were all in compliance. The 2020 real estate tax collection audit, they completed that, and they found that there was 8 municipalities had discrepancies. They've been addressed and corrected by the administration. We see the certification of county funds, which had a problem with, the only problem they had was they weren't communicating with the controller's office to do the reporting properly. And that was all corrected by the administration. They also, Michelle Bednar's office conducted the audit of the Brandon's Forever House contract, which goes hand in hand to the children and youth issue that acting manager Crocomo brought to the forefront back in, I believe it was August or July. She audited those. She found 5 findings and 3 recommendations. The Loftus McGarry contract, she audited that. The controller's office also audits the Department of Corrections Commissary Fund. You'll see the audits for 1920 for those 2 audits. They found they had findings, and the recommendations were put in place. When I go in and do the audit this year, we'll verify that those corrections have been made or at least addressed. The Northeast Revenue Audit, the controller's office did that one last year. These audits are all up on the internet or on a controller's page for councils to, council always get a copy of our audits. When we perform an audit, we post it online after council's got it, as well as after the managers received it, and they're put on the web page. So at any time, if you feel you want to take a look at those audits, they're there for the public to look at, as well as the council. My 2022 audit proposal is, as I have it outlined here, is one of the highlights of that is the $5 local use fee reimbursement. I spoke to acting manager Kokomo earlier on when I came in January, and we're working together with budget and finance to try and determine that $5 local use fee reimbursement. Devise a system that we can put in place to get in touch with PennDOT to get an accurate accounting of that, those folks that are entitled to that reimbursement, and disperse that appropriately. We're looking at the contract and purchasing procedures. We're also looking at the prison commissary fund, magistrate district judges. We do them on occasion. We spot those. We have 16 magistrates offices. We'll probably do maybe 3 or 4 of those this year. Computer and technology inventory. That's one of the issues that was brought to light by the CCAP audit that was done by acting manager Kokomo. Those are things that need to be addressed as to what equipment we actually have and what's the cost allocation to the different departments. We want to make sure that every department is paying their fair share for technology that they're receiving. That's not coming strictly out of the IT budget. That's not fair to IT, and it's certainly not fair to council to not have an accurate picture of the spending. Bureau of Elections, our office wants to do an audit of the filing fees and campaign finance reports. That office is overwhelmed with work with special elections, and they cannot physically handle that type of detail. So we're going to go in there and try and assist them in that if we can, to identify any filing fees that we possibly can get for revenue for the county, as well as to tighten up the ability for them to identify late filings that come into the office so they can get the revenue for the county as well. Let me see, my next slide is the copy of our budget from this year. Is that, as you'll see, I'll just slide over to the next slide. You'll see the comparison. If I can, let me see if I can go to the, okay, the next one is the department budget for the salaries. One of the things that council is very aware of from the district attorney's presentation, as well as acting manager Kokomo's, is the problem that we're having in the county is the ability to hire qualified people at the salaries that we pay. I realized that earlier on in January when I tried to get a deputy controller at $50,900, and it can't happen because the qualifications for deputy controller requires a master's degree in accounting. And most folks who have a master's degree in accounting are getting paid double that and then some. So to attract anybody to that position, I had to move some salaries around in my budget in order to change the salary. We advertised that position 3 times since January. We're still trying to get somebody to fill that position, even at $58,000. So thank you for the heads up on that. So we're at $58,000 for the controller's salary, deputy controller salary. And what I did was I took some salaries from the internal auditor position, which was funded at $36,189. And I took that money and I put it into the deputy controller position, as well as the senior auditor got about $700 to bump that salary up just a little bit, so I could possibly attract some better candidates to be able to fill that position. I sent council an email back in December about the merit raise. There is nobody in the office currently. It was on staff other than the auditor too. The rest of the folks have declined to be interviewed, so they were brought over as a controller employee. So I used the merit raise and I sent that to the council to help bolster up those salaries a little bit so I can attract better help for my office. Controller budget comparison, you'll see in 2021 we spent $273,551, and the actual expenditure was $261,317.50. We saved the county taxpayers $12,233 in expenditures last year to show the NARS credit. County watchdog challenges. The primary goal of the Office of Controller is to be an effective watchdog for the residents of Luzerne County. The goal was challenged by the following: staffing concerns and budget constraints. As you can see from that slide, this one slide was one that was put out when we were fighting against home rule. We were on the home rule no with the 3 dogs with no teeth. The controller office really doesn't have any teeth. It can identify, but we can't correct anything. That's up to council. It's also up to the manager. So keep that in mind when you look at an audit, that when we're requiring something to be corrected, that the office of the controller is counting on the council for support on that and the manager, so that the manager knows that what we bring to her or him for the findings is in the best interest of the county, and we can get that executed and move to a place where it's more efficient for the taxpayers. The budget and salary comparison to other home rule counties, I put that slide in there to demonstrate not only for the controller's office, but you can use this comparison for other people who are saying, we don't get paid enough money for the work we do. Children and youth comes to mind. And this is not a slide for the controller to in any way say that we need to get more money. We'll be more than happy to take it, but I understand the budget restraints. I sat on council's position. I know what that's like to try and get money and raise taxes and all of the stuff that goes with that. So this is a comparison to demonstrate that Luzerne County has the same, almost the same population as Northampton County and Lehigh County, yet the budgets are very stark in comparison. The county controller's budget in Luzerne County is $278,000, yet the budget for Northampton County is $898,000, and the annual budget for Lehigh County is $848,000. Now, to be honest, their duties are a little bit different because they do handle accounts payables, but it's just the same. Their staffing and their abilities to do that work is just as important, and they have the staffing in their counties provide the funding for that job. So, and the next slide is a bar graph of the prior one. This slide here is teamwork with county council and manager. I alluded to that earlier on in my presentation. I won't dwell on that much more, other than you'll see the responsibilities of the controller, you see the responsibilities of council, and you see the responsibilities of the manager. Together, the three of us can work together to make sure that we make a better government for Luzerne County and represent the people in a more productive fashion and save as much money as we possibly can and make the government more efficient. The next slide is our Cecil hotline. We're all aware of what the Cecil hotline is that was implemented. I put that in 2010 when I first was in the controller's office, and then Ms. Bednar carried it on to her credit until today. It's still in place, and that comes in very handy. I've received some calls and I've sent the emails to council about some of the concerns that residents have that come over that line confidentially, that are important information for council to know, the manager to know, and the controller to know. And somewhere along the line, if we can get some information that benefits all the taxpayers out of that, that's what the whole purpose of the Cecil hotline is. And that working hand in hand with the ACE committee will go a long way to keep the county accountable. And those phone calls that we get from people earlier on will be addressed on that end. So I'm finishing my slide now. So if anybody has any questions, I'm just can't tell you how humble and honored I am to be in this position. And I thank each and every resident that voted for me to put me here, as well as the ability for me to serve the people. So thank you so much for that. So if anybody has any questions, I'm here to answer your questions for you.
Thank you, Mr. Griffith.
I think you're off to a great start. Appreciate all the work you're doing, Walter.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Appreciate
great
it.
job, Walter.
Yep.
And I'm not just saying that because I'm sitting here.
Yeah. Okay.
I have one question.
Yes.
Did Carl Venus give you his permission for this picture?
He did not. He did not.
Was he going to fight the dog or the secret agent?
Sorry.
That's all right, Ken. Don't worry about it.
All right, thanks again, Mr. Griffith.
You're welcome.
Agenda item, well, number 1 was deleted. Number 2, receive and discuss budget report for February 2022. Mr. Slocum, do you want to address them briefly?
Sure, thank you, Madam Chair. As most people know, at this point in the year, we're wrapping up the 2021 audit. We stopped the invoice process and we're back to the final journal entry. For 2022, most of the tax bills went out. You believe they're in the mail on 2/24, and most of them went out on the 28th. Our office needs to make sure that everything is in place before the tax bills go out. And if there's any kind of issue with anything prior to that, those bills get due. So most of the municipalities went out on the 28th. If you haven't gone out, we'll list everything in the newspaper. We give notices so everyone knows. If your bill goes out later, you still get the full time, so nobody loses 60 days. It's 60 days in between each period. So that stays whether your bill went out on 2/28 or 3/7 or in the future. So that's going on for 2022. Again, at this point, it's very early in the year because taxes is anywhere from 85 to 87% of our general fund budget. So if the tax bills just went out, and we're only in, not even a full 2 months in, there's really not much going on. I just wanted to let everyone know on the actual cash report, there's actually 2 accounts for the 56 million. So council is aware that besides, I think it was like $900, which was for a homebound clinic in 2021, and also one of the testing sites, no money was spent in 2021. Besides that, council's made some allocations in 2022, but none of those projects are started. So we're compiling a list of what's allocated versus what's actually spent. So we're on that. Our office is also working on the final rule. Everyone knows the final rule's out. We've been on any kind of webinars. To the point before, we were very conservative, and I believe council was, to get all the information we could before we started moving on the final rule. To all of council's point, it's one-time money. We're probably not going to get this large of a chunk again, so let's use it wisely. So we'll have a list, we'll have an application process, we'll have council in front of council, and it'll be a transparent process. And that's really all I've got, besides any questions I can answer off the top of my head.
Madam Chair. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Swets. Just a simple question. 2 weeks ago, there was a couple of us here, Mr. Lescavage and myself. We were looking over that expansive list of checking accounts the county has. There's 70 some checking accounts. I don't want to get into that here, but I'm wondering someday I'll ask you, why do we have so many checking accounts? But my question is the one checking account was the, I think, set up for the ARP money, and it says that, and I don't have it in front of me. And I think we got 56 million originally in that. And I know we spent roughly 8 million already with various legislative things we did, which would leave around 48 million. But when I looked at it 2 weeks ago, it said there was 28 million in there. Where was the other 20 million?
Yeah, so the money was always in there, and it was the account somehow on the lead sheet that we pulled together and give to council. That wasn't on there. So if you look this time, you will see there's 2 separate bank accounts. That was the decision that was made when the money came in. Quite honestly, to your point of all the accounts, we only have 250,000 worth of protection. We're not going to open thousands of accounts. Administration thought the 2 accounts versus 1 account, and it just wasn't on the sheet. So it's on your sheet this time. Somehow the cell got deleted.
Okay, so
I missed it in my review.
So
there's 2 bank accounts.
And they say ARP.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
it's about 48.
It's actually, we only spent a few thousands, even though council allocated that 8 million, as the manager said at the time, we have not given any of that money out yet.
Okay.
One of the things we're talking about is getting an expansive list in front of you, whether that includes, or staff for our office doing it, consultants, whatever it ends up being. I think everyone's point is, let's get a list of the projects before we can move forward.
Thank you.
So-
And the last comment I'll make is dovetail off Mr. Lescavage said tonight. I think we're all for small business and the flourishing of small business. But like he said, if we give out $20 million to 5 different sources, there's $100 million. And then we'll wake up one day next year that, oh, geez, we need 10 million for that or 5 million for that. Oh, we spent all that money. And then what do we do? We're into borrowing money then. So like Mr. Lescavage said, I think we're all interested first in taking care of county-owned properties where that money could be spent. That's the only reason I think the 20 million for small business went on the sidebar for now.
Just to your point, and then I'll take other questions. So it's on page 79 of the packet. It says Fund 125, coronavirus fiscal recovery. Initially, that was for the coronavirus. Once that was all spent, I believe there's like $700 in interest which we're allowed to keep, which is on the other sheet. It was converted over to ARP. So even though it says coronavirus 20, that is your ARP money. The 28.2 and the 28.2, they're a little bit different because, as you know, every bank gives a different interest rate, so they're not exactly the same.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Urban.
I have to be the resident jerk in spell checking. 500, 502, 503, and 750. Can we get the spellings corrected on this? I mean, like the sheriff's department.
Yeah, sure.
And then Sonitary and
The French
everything.
pronunciation.
No, I,
Sharif.
sure.
I mean, only because, you know, if this is coming out to the public and all of us, it needs to.
I know.
Thank you.
We'll correct it.
Any other council members? Thank you, Mr. Swett.
Oh, sure, no problem.
Number 3, we have the discussion regarding resolution regarding the financing by the Northeastern Pennsylvania Hospital and Education Authority Farming Seminaries of the Susquehanna Annual Conference of the United Methodist Church in 44 Borough and Kingston Borough, Pennsylvania. Attorney Moses.
Good evening. I am here tonight on behalf of the Northeast Pennsylvania Hospital and Education Authority. The Hospital and Education Authority is a conduit that issues tax exempt financing for projects that involve educational institutions or hospitals. We were approached by Wyoming Seminary, who we have done many projects for in the past, about a $4 million tax exempt project that they are going to use the funds to rehabilitate some of their already existing buildings, roofs, windows, doors on properties that already exist. So this is not a new construction. This is just repairs to current buildings on the campus. We had a meeting in early January. At that meeting, we passed a resolution basically indicating that the project fit within the scope of our bylaws. It's an educational institution and they are a not-for-profit entity. After that, we had a TEFRA hearing, which is required by law. That TEFRA hearing was held in this very room, and no one from the public attended the TEFRA hearing. That would have been an opportunity for the public to come and object. TEFRA hearings for tax exempt financings are to decide whether or not the project at question is adverse to the health, safety, and welfare of the community. Well, for what we do, because we're a hospital education authority, very rarely do we do a project that adversely affects the health, safety, and welfare of the public. Other tax exempt projects like sewage treatment plants or building a prison or something of that nature, those sometimes get public dissent. This is just merely construction on already existing buildings. So the TEFRA hearing was held on January 27th here. And now the last step of the project is to report to you that a TEFRA hearing was held, that the authority passed a resolution, but because this is going to take place in Luzerne County has to approve the authority's issuance of these tax exempt bonds for the project.
Thank you, Attorney Moses. Council members, do you have any questions at this time?
I do. I keep asking anybody have any questions.
Go ahead, Mr.
So basically, it's they're borrowing the seminary, the school's borrowing $4 million to make improvements in the building. And for the purpose of everybody here, tax exempt means the interest that is paid out on those bonds to investors is tax exempt to the investor. That doesn't, in layman's terms, how does this whole project affect the county?
Not to be trite, it doesn't. So it doesn't cost Luzerne County any money.
That's what I was.
The county doesn't pay the hospital authority any money.
Okay.
The council doesn't pay me to be the solicitor for the hospital authority any money.
Okay.
What it basically is that the Wyoming Seminary contacts a financial institution, whoever it may be. That financial institution issues bonds. Those bonds are purchased by people all over the world, all over the country,
right.
Iowa, Indiana, Kentucky, it doesn't matter. Those proceeds of those bonds fund the project.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
Number 4, discussion regarding Hazleton land bank request. I think Mr. Perna is on, and council members, as you can see in your packet, we did request additional information on this, similar to the NEPA land bank. Mr. Perna did provide that. So, Mr. Perna, if you want to just briefly speak on that, and then we'll see if we have any questions.
Yes, and good evening, everyone. And sorry I could not be with you in person today. I double booked myself at 2 different meetings, so I apologize for not being with you. The Hazleton Land Bank did submit to you additional information on 6 properties that the city is eyeing. We are looking to rehab or bring down some of these facilities. We are relatively young land bank. We already have 3 properties in our bank, 2 of them which are already out for bid to be put back onto the tax rolls. In the presentation that was given to you, the first property on 816 West 3rd Street is a property that's actually being turned over to the city of Hazleton by its owner after years of back and forth with the city. And that's just one example of our code department that's been able to go out and work with our residents. The second property, the American Legion building, anybody who's been on Broad Street in downtown Hazleton knows that is a building that has significant value to the Hazleton community. Unfortunately, it has sat in disrepair for many years, and there has been some issues getting the proper owners to the city to figure out what the next step was. We've been able to make contact and are hoping to have that building in our possession by the end of the springtime, beginning of summer, to start the process of rehabilitation of that building with a developer to help some of the overcrowding issues that we are seeing in the city. A few of the other properties, 2 of them, which are of homes, are beyond repair, and the city would look to bring those properties down. They are dangerous structures. They've been deemed dangerous by our code enforcement department that need to have the proper remediation taken care of. And lastly, the property we currently own on West 6th Street, which is a former dairy, we have taken ownership of that and have found multiple issues with that. And that is scheduled to go to demolition in the coming months. We will be putting that out to bid shortly with our Office of Community Development. That unfortunately, that building is a large one, it's connected to some other buildings, and there was just too many problems with it. Our land bank board is made up of individuals who have vested interest in the city. They're realtors, they're construction folks. They are people who know this field the best, either with zoning or code enforcement backgrounds or the other, as I mentioned. So we are trying to take the best approach we can moving forward with the land bank. You know, again, we first sat for our meeting at the beginning of the year and are starting to come together with plans. Our bylaws and our strategic plans are coming together, and the proposal in front of you for the $500,000 would benefit us tremendously to be able to make Hazleton a better place for everybody. And with that, I would open up if there's any questions I can answer.
Thank you, Mr. Perna.
I don't have a question. I just have a comment. Thank you, Mr. Perna, for the extensive information you gave us. This goes a long way, especially seeing specific properties to helping a lot of us get to a yes vote on this. But I appreciate it. Thank you.
Madam Chair, quick question. Hey, Gary, thanks for the info. As you all know, I know all those properties. I grew up in Hazleton. They are light now. You're in bad shape. So good job.
Yeah. Thank you, Gary. And of course, most of us, if not all of us, are all for supporting blight and get rid of it, especially those pictures you showed. And we talked about this over a month ago here, myself, Councilman Greg Wilovich, and Councilman John Lombardo, regarding blight in the county, particularly the Hazleton Land Bank, because you guys are up and running now. And I just made a suggestion to them that maybe a couple of you guys could reach out and attend the land bank that's set up in Pittston, because it's been operational now for 8 years. And they have success. I was on that land bank in the beginning, and we did receive LSA money and some other grants. And they're very knowledgeable on how to get that money, how to move through the process quickly. And also, it was very important that we adopted official bylaws and a charter. And I guess I'm just, did you guys do that? get past that step?
Yes, we did. We were at our last meeting, passed our bylaws that the temporary board had set up. We went through, we gave our council members the time to go through them. We approved them, so everything is up and running on that end. On the Pittston Land Bank end, we have been in contact with them, and they have been a great source for us, and we continue to hopefully work with them in the future. And also, I've been attending the Pennsylvania Land Bank Network and getting information through them. So this is a statewide issue, as you all are aware of, and we're trying to combat it in Hazleton the best we can. So, we appreciate everyone who has reached out to help us get this off the ground and running.
And one last thing, just a little bit of tidbit of information. In the beginning, we started with 4 communities, and Duryea, Jenkins Township, West Pittston, and Pittston. And I know the state grants come more quickly and more readily the more communities you have involved in the authority or the COG. So, and we found other towns were quickly calling us saying, "Hey, can we join you?" Now there's more towns involved up that way. So I would suggest if Hazleton could expand that a little bit into the neighboring communities, that the grants come much more readily.
Yes, and thank you. And no, we have been in contact with our neighboring Hazel Township, West Hazleton, and hopefully once our land bank is established, we can continue to move it into that direction as well. Thank you.
Good.
Mr. Perna, great presentation. I like seeing that the property on West 6th Street, that property has been vacant for like 50 years. I used to pass newspapers in that neighborhood, but that property has been vacant for 50 years. But thank you again for all your hard work.
Just a quick question, Mr. Perna. When you had that temporary board established, was it above board at that time? And as far as the bylaws, is it legal to create those bylaws with that temporary board based on the state statute?
Yes, our attorney who worked with the temporary board to get it up and running is our attorney that we are using currently. Everything that was done through our solicitor, and he has assured us that everything has set up in the proper fashion.
Thank you, Mr. Burnham. Any other council members? Okay, we have agenda item number 5, discussion regarding resolution authorizing the county manager to execute a lease addendum between Luzerne County and Luzerne County Community College for premises currently leased in the Broad Street Business Exchange Building. County Manager Slocum, would you want to speak to that?
Good evening. The community college is a long-time occupant in our Broad Street Exchange Building. They're a very good tenant, and they want to expand their space in that building. And the expansion is set forth in the addendum to the lease agreement, and also the cost associated with that.
Thank you.
And of course, any questions, please email me, call me, and I have no problem. We will respond to you.
Thank you, Ms. Copeland. Number 6, discussion regarding resolution approving the sale of certain parcels of property held in repository by Elite Revenue Solutions LLC, acting as Luzerne County Tax Claim Bureau. Does anybody have any questions on those? Okay, if not, we can move on. Number 7, discussion regarding resolution approving demolition of building 16 of the Keystone Job Corps Center.
That basically states exactly what the request is from Keystone Job Corps, which we own that property, and they are tenants. Any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them, email or call.
Thank you. Number 8, we have the discussion regarding the agreement with PennDOT regarding the Water Street Bridge, authorizing the county manager to execute documents. Ms. Kokomo, did you want to introduce the people from PennDOT?
I hope that the group from PennDOT are still on the line. They've been working very closely with us. And Councilmember Thornton, I wanted to include him in our discussions because he's an engineer and he can translate what the PennDOT engineers are saying to me.
Yeah, do you mind if I jump in?
Please.
Great, yeah, and it also looks like we have Mr. Tomaszewski and Mr. Benner. I hope I pronounced your names correct.
Okay,
Yes, correct.
I'll just give how you doing, guys? I'll just give a brief synopsis of what's going on, and I appreciate PennDOT and you, Ms. Giacomo, that you involved me in the discussions. And I'm very pleased with how quickly and fast this is going. So basically, we've had several long phone meetings, Zoom meetings, in-person meetings, and the two bridges in the Pittston area span the Susquehanna River. One of them's county-owned, one of them's Pennsylvania, PennDOT-owned. The county-owned bridge, if I get this incorrect, you can correct me. It was constructed in 1914, 108 years ago. The inspection of last summer revealed extensive deterioration and erosion of the steel. And basically, it's an all-steel building built on piers. And it is extensive. And they had very good pictures. They put in a presentation. And the inspection at that time led county to close the bridge. And it's been closed since August. That has created an enormous amount of traffic issues in the whole area up there. And 4 of council members that sit here tonight live right in that immediate area. We live it every day. I think PennDOT reported with the traffic study about approximately 8,000 vehicles cross the county bridge every day, 12,000 cross the state bridge every day. They're only 200 yards apart. And now all of that traffic from the county is going onto the state bridge. So now there's 20,000 vehicles going over that bridge every day. Most of the bridge is only 2 lanes, 1 lane one way, 1 lane the other. So it's an enormous economic impact to the local area too. It's really significantly hurting the local economies on both sides of that river, not just West Pittston. Pittston, it's Pittston Township, Exeter, Wyoming, Duryea, Avoca. That whole area is impacted. So PennDOT did a great job, and they came up with 8 scenarios and I'm not going to get into detail. And all 8 scenarios describe either rehabbing the bridges or building brand new, constructing new bridges. And they did put price tags on them, approximate price tags. And I was amazed to find that most of the 8 scenarios cost almost the same amount of money. Whether you're rehabbing a bridge or replacing it, it was almost the same amount of money. I was shocked when I saw the figures. So the bottom line is, I think, replacing both bridges, if that's the way the public wants to go, costs roughly, I think, $50 million, somewhere in that neighborhood. And I think the funding or finance that you discussed on the calls would be hopefully 80% from the federal government, 15% from Pennsylvania, and 5% from the county towards the project. And also, I think we're all planning, or you were planning, to have a town hall type meeting with all the residents up in that area at the Wyoming Area High School Secondary Center Auditorium, first week of April. So that's really all I'm going to say. So I'll let them jump in.
Thank you, Mr. Thornton.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Well, do you have any questions specifically?
Just at this point, the resolution is to have the county manager execute documents, because we'll be working in tandem with PennDOT.
And I do want to, I forgot to mention with that, when we were on the last call, of course, we want to expedite it as quickly as we can. And And when we asked, and this is standard procedure, the earliest that shovel in the ground will happen is 5 years away. And I made the comment, if we tell, all the residents that bridge, county bridge will be closed for 5 years, we might have a revolution up there. So especially everybody who lives there. So I'm not sure how we get that done quicker, but on the last call, we did ask, what's the next step? And you guys said, well, we need an agreement between the state and county agreeing to all the terms of this, because the county is actually going to bundle the bridge project together, a bridge bundling project. And the state is going to take responsibility for the entire project of constructing the 2 new bridges or rehabbing them, whatever's decided. So I said, well, let's get this going right away. We need this agreement. We don't want to delay extra months. So I think that's why you put it on the work session tonight. And at the next meeting, hopefully we have that agreement ready for passage.
Right, so this is the initial step, and there's been no decision made on whether it's going to be rehab 1 bridge, 2 bridges, and PennDOT will be having a public meeting in the area, and we'll be working with PennDOT as this project goes forward. And this is the initial step. To delay this, we're just delaying the work.
Can I deplore, ask council to please pass this in 3 weeks or whatever.
We also are meeting, hopefully setting up a meeting with PennDOT to review the signaling in and around both the Pittston and the West Pittston side. So hopefully we can reduce the dangers that are there. We'll be working with PennDOT as well.
That was my question, because if the earliest this is gonna get done is 5 years, and I do understand these projects take time, and I understand that firsthand. But it is a dangerous intersection, especially on the west side, I think. So if we could get that addressed, sooner.
It's live Frogger. You're playing Frogger.
It is literally Frogger
Yeah,
trying
it's
to
like
get
the
out. And when you make the
Costanza,
decision,
you
you
know.
floor the gas pedal and hope you don't get whacked.
But we'll be having a meeting with PennDOT and the local leaders, and then we'll address that.
The only question I had on the traffic signalization, I know the answer you guys gave from PennDOT's point of view, which is the right answer, of course. The local municipalities, West Pittston and Pittston, would have to pass and approve traffic signals, and I think they even have to fund them and finance them. And I understand that's the permanent traffic signaling, but what about if there was just temporary signaling, just to as part of the project? Would that be something PennDOT could put up, temporary signaling?
Yeah, that definitely could be something we can look into and we'll discuss, at that future meeting. I believe that's been set up and scheduled. Whether it's a temporary portable signals, or stringing, signals across the wire, we'll figure out what the best way is to address, the safety concerns at that intersection.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
Any other councilors have questions?
Madam Chair, I just have a comment. I would just like to say a special thank you to Councilman Thornton for keeping me in the loop and explaining this stuff to me. I'm a lawyer, I'm not an engineer, so I appreciate everything. I do understand the 5%. That sounds great. If we can make it happen, let's make it happen. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Just want to make a comment. Thank you, Mr. Thornton, as well, because this is an example of a council member speaking with the state, on his own time, outside of the council meeting and getting things done. That's basically what we're just trying to show you as the public. It's not trying to do anything about, behind the public's back. It's showing leadership that we're all taking the ball and running in different directions, trying to talk to different leaders that we know in our own networks to get things done.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Just briefly, number 9, we have discussion regarding county manager search committee expenditures. I just wanted council to be able to see where they're at right now. We allotted them a $5,000 amount, and then I think a $10,000 amount after that. excuse me, I'm sorry, and they came in around 7. So there is money left over in the county manager's search committee budget. Does anybody, any council members have anything before we go into public comment? All right, hearing none, we have public comment. If you don't mind, I'm not gonna go off of these slips. A lot of people have left. I don't know who needs to speak now, but if you'd like to speak, is Mr. Raybo. Members from PennDOT, thank you so much for being on and addressing questions. We appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you.
First of all, I would like to express my thanks to Mr. Thornton for meeting with PennDOT, as well as I think that what needs to be done is, and it was said at a few previous meetings since the first meeting of the new council about the grants related to the bridges. And I was trying to make comment, as I usually do virtually, but it gets lost in translation. When the Congress passed the infrastructure money or infrastructure legislation in January, there was a $5.5 billion grant attached to it, just strictly for dilapidated bridges. So I was wondering, because the acting county manager was asked a question at a previous meeting about all the grants being applied for. I hope you applied for that one, because that is a very nice grant. $5.5 billion out of a $26.5 billion allocation, just strictly for dilapidated bridges. So I hope Michelle, you and Michelle Sparish can look at that, and I'll send you the email for the application. Please.
We're looking at all sources.
Yeah.
Including that.
So also the state, as I agree with Mr. Urban about the state. And Mr. Thornton, you said it yourself, as far as it's sometimes easier, or Mr. Oskevich, maybe you might have said it too, about, it's easier going to the state, because the road less traveled, so to speak, for funding. So now they're deliberating about the budget, which has to be passed, I'm sure you all know, by the end of January, or by the end of June, excuse me. So that being said, and we've been talking about this, the previous councils have been talking about it for years, about court reimbursements and roads projects being discussed through the gas tax money. And I hope in your discussions with our state legislators moving forward to the final culmination of the state budget, that we get more money coming back to us, especially for the court reimbursements. And I spoke to Councilwoman McDermott about this last year, during last year's budget. We only get 5% reimbursement, $500,000 to pay for the judicial staff. And I'm sure Mr. Griffith, the Controller Griffith, remembers clearly about the fact that we haven't been getting our reimbursement increased. And now the state passed a 5.6% increase in the cost of living allocation for judicial staff, which is the highest in 30 years. So I shudder to think, for this year's budget, or for next year's budget, I'm wrapping up, for this year's budget coming up, that you guys are going to have to try to find the money, because that'll come in a form of a tax increase. So I hope that you guys will talk to our state legislator, Senator Lisa Baker, who's the chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee. I hope you guys talk to her about it. Maybe bump it up to 10% instead of 5%. Just my suggestion, but any increase would be good, because 5.6% increase, that's a big cost of living increase.
Thank you,
So,
Mr. Raybo.
thank you.
Any other members of the public? Mr. Newman?
Yes, I listened to Attorney Moses' presentation. As I discussed it earlier, I didn't hear the word pilot mentioned, not from anybody. No, so I guess my earlier discussion, my early point just went right over top of all of you, right? No one mentioned pilot. Why are we not even addressing that? I mean, Wyoming Seminary, I know they give to Kingston, they probably give the 40 for it. Why don't they give to the county? Why don't you ask for it? $100, $200, $500, $1,000. You just approved, well, you didn't approve it yet, but you will approve them to get a large loan. And it's the law. It's the law. The law says you can do it. You can ask for it. Probably won't get it, but you can ask for it at least. The other issue is local shares. And have we received local shares money yet? Because gaming in state of Pennsylvania, Commonwealth, is sky high. Mohegan Sun pulled in $241 million in revenue. I mean, there's certainly enough money in local shares. We ought to be able to fix Kirby Avenue. We ought to be able to fix Hanover Street in the industrial park down in Hanover Township. Disappointed. Thank you.
Mr. Newman, just really quickly, I don't want to speak out of turn, but I think Attorney Moses represents that Northeastern Pennsylvania Hospital and Education. Yeah, so he represents them rather than like not the Wyoming Seminary portion of it. They're the ones providing the loan to them. So, you know, if we want to address a pilot, that's something we would do with Wyoming Seminary and not Attorney Moses directly. He was representing the one giving the loan.
Is anybody going to do that?
I'm not. I can't speak on behalf of all of council, but or the administration. I'm just letting you know that he wasn't. He was representing the other entity.
But he should have been pressured.
Clay,
Point should have come up.
Clay, just comment. I know pilot stands for payment in lieu of taxes. So usually we have to forgive taxes from that body.
They don't pay them.
And currently, they're, I didn't look into it, so I don't know if Wyoming Seminary is all tax-free, you know, so.
We'll look into it. And have some.
Beg your pardon?
We will look into it. and
Thank
give an
you.
answer.
Thank you, Mr. Newman. Any other members of the public?
Yeah, I'd like to address, by the way, you're the only one that smiled when he came back. Trip lawyer, good response. Mrs. Thornton, and everybody else that do ask questions, don't ever apologize for asking questions. I love hearing your questions. I love to hear, I like when I love when you all ask questions because honestly, it enlightens us. The more you ask, the more we hear the discussion, the more we feel better as citizens. That's beautiful. But I want to address the rally that was held this last week outside. And there was a couple people that told me that I told them it was going to be respectful, and there was someone with the Grim Reaper and it had Mr. Crocomo's name on it, and people think we crossed the line with that. And I want to let you know, I invited everybody. I believe in the First Amendment. So and it was the first time I ever did this, so I didn't know what I could or couldn't do. And I thought about it after one gentleman brought it up, and a few people did. They thought that, you know, maybe it was going to look, and I didn't look at it that way. I looked at it as the end of a term, not an end of a person. And if it was that disrespectful, I probably would have ripped it out of his sign. So even though if we have another rally or when we have another rally, I'm going to ask people not to bring things. I want to stay on focus, on point, on agenda, and not on. And I'm going to actually call. There was a couple people. I'm going to call one out that I usually don't agree with, but Mr. Lombardo, and I got to give him a lot of credit because we, you know, like I know that a bunch of people people meet and you guys have meet with each other, and that's important. But I think that the citizens were concerned when an elected official met with somebody. But even though we don't see eye to eye on some things, you do respond to me, and I respect you for that. And there's other people that have met with me, and I don't see eye to eye with some of the things, but I do respect them, even when they disagree with me, that they do. So I even offered lunch with you, and I'm going to offer lunch with all you. And the times that I agree with you, you know me, I will charge up a hill for you guys. Ramil, the same thing with you. You handle that with class and dignity, and my hat's off to you. And if you were offended or hurt, I wish I could have made a difference. And next time I will, because you deserve that.
I certainly wasn't offended or hurt.
I didn't think so, because you're a tough character, and I love that about you.
I do appreciate that you spelled my name was spelled correctly. My sister's.
I would have screwed it up. I'm horrible. It wasn't, honestly, I didn't, and I swear on my daughters, I wasn't too sure. And honestly, if I thought it was in a nefarious or disgusting way, I would have punched the guy in the face, and it wasn't. So if someone took it the wrong way, please don't take it that right. It was supposed to be good humor. And if anybody took it differently than that, I sincerely apologize for that. And I'll tell you what, Mr. Scavage brought it up, you brought it up, and you all kind of said, and honestly, I respect you guys. And if I do something wrong, or if I do something offensive or hurtful, please tell me, because that's not my intention.
Sir, I would always defend your right for freedom of speech. I've done it
I
before,
appreciate that.
and I will do it again.
I do appreciate that. And like I said, if there's something that we agree on a lot of things, and those things I'll always work.
Thank you, Mr. Fitzgerald.
And thank you for the water.
Thank you. As soon as I leave.
Thank you for watering us. Any other members of the public? Anybody on Zoom? Hearing none.
Motion to adjourn.
Second, Venus.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, meeting adjourned. Have a good night, guys.
Yeah.